Imola showed us that the MTEC series will require just as much skill in traffic management as it does outright speed. But while Imola was a track featuring many chicanes, there's none to be seen here today at Phillip Island. Fast and flowing, this Australian circuit presents a completely different type of challenge. We'll see who conquers it as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Majors Team Endurance Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman and Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Aussie viewers will no doubt be plenty familiar with this circuit, but in case there are those that don't know about Phillip Island yet, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening Beeman. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around. So here at Phillip Island, we've switched gears to the other side of the earth, but Sam, it is still the same goal, be the first to the finish.
Yes, and we have 3 hours of racing coming up ahead of us, but it's 3 hours that hopefully for these drivers is going to be quite entertaining. This Phillip Island circuit has a lot of flow to it. It is normally a favourite on racing drivers, particularly those who reside from down under. And this is the second of 5 rounds of this championship, and we're going to give you a look at our track layout here. The Phillip Island circuit, 12 turns, a little over 2.5 miles, around 4.5 kilometers. It's a great location and it's a great track when you're out there on your own. However, as we saw at Imola, and as we're going to see at our next 3 races too, I'm sure, on your own around the circuit is one thing, but doing it among other classes is going to be something else. There's some straights around here where the faster cars can make passes on the slower cars, but there's also some twisty parts where things might get a little interesting too.
No doubt about that. And now we've round in the books, which means, if I can say that, there's a championship on its way. And Steph, I believe you have the update on the LMP2 standings.
Yeah, very much, and it has been a very great drive for our championship leader coming out of round number 1. VRS Satellite Racing, right now the one and only winner of this season thus far, as we're already in round 2. That is only logical. 46 points were their points total out of that first race, with Texans Fitzeye Motorsports Athena 7 points only behind in second place. Evolve Simsport Obsidian in third place, 10 points behind, with Kinetic Racing MTEC, the 69 car. They finished in fourth place, 12 points behind with that. And we had the second Fitzy Motorsports Hephaestus car in fifth place last time around, 14 points were they now awarded behind the VRS Satellite Racing team. So still very tight, obviously at the very top of that LMP2 standing. How are we looking for the GTE class?
Well, up at the top of the GTEs, it is currently Evolve Sim Sport Titanium. And very similarly, only 7 points between them. You can see that it's what they get for a win, 46 points on the top of the board, with only 2 points between the Fitzy Motorsports Hades team and the Forge Endurance Zero team, the SPB Evolve team up there with their sister team, basically ruling out everybody else from any sort of shot at this thing, at least at the start of this season. That could always change as things go on. Sector 5 Black Ball rounds out your top 5. But Sam, I believe you've got our GT4 points.
Yeah, and obviously the numbers here look very similar to what they do over in the other two classes, having only done one round so far. And it's grid life for the Bombshell Racing team, who are currently leading the standings by 7 markers over there. CMS Racing are currently sitting in second and third ahead of Sector 8. And then Missed Apex F1, the podcast team Tax Dodgers, is sitting there 5th in the standings, reminding me that I have to do taxes next month. And, there's lots of different Missed Apex F1 teams out there, so we'll try our best to keep abreast of all of those for you. And normally, Joe, when you look at after round number 1, you don't think too much about those points. But obviously, with this championship just being 5 races long, well, 1 round is a big deal.
Absolutely. You can't afford to have a bad race, what about today's race? If you didn't come to the first round, here's what they've got. Round 2 out of 5, 3 hours that they will contest. And there's the 3 classes you can see they'll be running. It is open setup in this series, so drivers will have to try and make sure that the setup suits everybody on the team and try to find the pace out of that. One thing that will be interesting as well that you don't see often in road series is there are full course cautions that will be taking place. That's after the entirety of the grid racks up a certain amount of incidents. That is everybody combined together. So we do not know the number. They are not told what it will be. So nobody can really predict these yellows. But the stewards are watching, and they will throw the caution when enough incidents are racked up, which could play a part in the pit strategy today, which I'm sure we'll talk about plenty. Right now in the qualifying, Evolve Sim Sports Diamond has the pole in the LMP2s provisionally. Mach 1 Esports leads in the GTEs, and Grid Life iRacers Bombshell leads in the GT4s. We've only got a couple cars out there taking their laps here at the very end of qualifying, with just about 5 minutes to go, it appears, on our clock. But Steph, one thing that I know you are very concerned about is how the traffic is going to play with one another here today. It sounds like the fast corners are going to make it just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and that especially between a GT4 and the LMP2 cars. Now, if you're not familiar with the GT4 cars, they basically are essentially handling through fast corners like a 4-wheel drive GTO car. Now, that probably doesn't tell you much either, but it is understeer galore. There's no aerodynamic efficiency whatsoever on these cars. They don't produce a lot of downforce, especially with those little whimsy rear wings that they have on those cars. So they basically need all the track that they can get. And if there's an LMP2 flying at them a little bit too fast and don't really know where that GT4 is going to go, this will cause a major mayhem. And obviously, as we have seen in the track preview, Phillip Island basically is one fast corner.
Yeah, just so many places where they're going to have to keep an eye up ahead, way down the road, because they're going to be approaching those BMWs and Porsches very quickly. Sam, I'm also curious, because none of the classes will be able to make it to the finish without a pit stop, how this one's going to work out in terms of the pit strategy, just because of those cautions. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward on the surface, at least if you just look at the fuel. But for those that haven't dealt with cautions, especially in endurance racing, it can throw a real loop into things.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't know what the incident count limit is, where the cautions will come out. But drivers, can try and base their strategy around them. There's an advantage to trying to make your pit stop before yellow flag flies. If you get it done, then when the field gets bunched up, any drivers who haven't pit yet, who are forced to pit under the safety car, well, they'll drop behind you. So to that advantage, to that point, it could be to the drivers, the team's advantage to try and short pit. However, it will be interesting seeing the amount of incidents here and how many we do accumulate, how many yellows we do get. Because even though, yes, to Stefan's point, I think we might see some car-to-car contact out here, the 1Xs, there's a greater incentive at Phillip Island to keep off the grass than what there is at Imola. As you've probably noticed by now, there's really not any paved runoff areas around here. It's got an old school feel to it. Even just watching Tom go into pit entry there, you saw him kicking up a bit of dirt. The grass here is not exactly forgiving, and the speeds are high, so you don't want to run off because you could definitely go for a spin or a slide and end up in the wall if you're not too careful. But then to Stefan's point, I want to lay down some numbers here, Joe. It's about 20 to 30 seconds between the fastest cars here and the slowest cars, and that's big on its own. But what's more is the lap isn't that long around here. We're going to be talking about lap traffic within 3 or 4 laps.
And then from there, there's basically no end to the conveyor belt of machinery that they've got to overtake. And Steph, the good news is at least it seems the weather conditions are pretty ideal here today.
Yeah, it's unfamiliar good for Phillip Island a weekend. We have 21 degrees Celsius in the air, 23 degrees Celsius or rather on the track. The air temperature, that would be 69 Fahrenheit or 74 Fahrenheit on the track if you are using that kind of format. North winds 5 miles per hour or 7 kilometers an hour with a humidity of 73%, so literally ideal conditions for a Phillip Island weekend that we normally don't see if you are watching motorbike racing, because normally we have a very stiff breeze from the ocean onto the track.
Normally in motorcycle racing, they have to deal with seagulls here too.
Yes, especially if you're an Italian.
The drivers thankfully only have to put up with about 30 more seconds of the qualifying itself, and we've got 50 cars that have qualified. We are lacking 3 teams that have put a qualifying time in. Not sure if they will be gridding up because we understand a few have decided not to race today. Regardless, should be an entertaining one here for the next 3 hours. Just a reminder as well, this is a team event, so drivers will need to swap out at least once. You have to have a minimum of 2 drivers take part in the event today. That is our grid set, so let's go through our starting order. It is going to be Evolve SimSport Diamond on the pole with Team iRacing. Starting in second, Kinetic Racing MTEC number 63 will be in third. Scuderia Monza starts P4. Inside of row 3 has Texas Fitzy Motorsports Aries in fifth, and Switch It Topaz starts in sixth. Texas Fitzy Motorsports Athena's team starts in 7th, followed by Kinetic Racing MTEC's number 69 car. Then it's Evolve SimSport Obsidian, a little bit far down for what we've seen with most of the Evolve cars, as they've been quick, but they're going to have to start from 9th. Speed Asylum Bombshell will be starting in P10, and then Grizzly Motorsports starts in 11th. You've got CT Racing in the 12th spot. The inside of row 7 is VRS Satellite Racing, with Devotion Sim Racing Purple in 14th. You've got Kinetic Racing MTEC number 66 down in 15th. Really spread apart between the Kinetic teams here in the LMP2 class. XMB Race Design starts 16th. Athiam Racing starts 17th. And Elite West Racing will start 18th. Steph?
The fastest team on the grid, it's Mach 1 Esports, will be your leader of the GTE field on the grid, with SimTV Bombshell Racing Team right beside him in 20th overall. Fortune Endurance 404 will be in 21st or 3rd in class. SS Racing number 2 will be 4th in class, with Calvert Dynamics Bombshell Racing 23rd overall. Takes Sense Fitzy Motorsport Hades in 24th overall, with Middle Finger Racing, the best team in the series, is best team name in the series, will be lining up in 25th overall, with Forge Endurance 026th. Missed Apex F1 podcast team Beam, the fastest of the Missed Apex teams, in 27th, with Grizzly Motorsport by TFRL Lab in 28th overall, with the 52 of Evolve Sim Sport Titanium 29th. Black Tree Race Crew will be lining up in 30th, with Friction Racing, Evolve Sim Sports SPB, Sector 5 Wild Blue Yonder, Speedworks Racing, and V Apex Racing Group Atlantis rounding out your top 35 of this 52 car field. Hollow Racing, Kinetic Racing, MTEC 166, Hard Promises Racing, Elite West USA, and Kinetic Racing MTEC, the 167 machine, round out your GTE field.
Oh, I get the easy job here. The GT4 field. We have Grid Life on pole position in that class with the number 286 car, ahead of two Missed Apex F1 podcast team machines, the number 26 and the number 205. Grid Life also have a car, the Bombshell Racing Machine another Bombshell Racing Machine starting 4th in class, ahead of CMSRacing.com, and Missed Apex F1 the podcast 5th and 6th in the GT4 class, ahead of Ford Endurance and CMSRacing.com Team 2. Mad Sim Racing Yellow and Sector 8 round out a 10-car GT4 field.
Good timing, because we are just about to get going here. As, we're going to have the Porsche pace car peel into pit lane. Pretty soon they run up the hill past Hayshed into Lukey Heights, a very, very blind corner. That'll certainly be a spot where drivers will want to hope that they don't come upon a wreck, because there's going to be almost no warning as they approach. Meanwhile, who is looking to try and get a good start here and manage to get some positions before they get tangled up in the other classes. Michael Broomhead's going to be starting in the number 51 on that pole position as the Evolve Sim Sport Diamond car watches the Porsche pace car is in. He's waiting patiently, giving it a while before accelerating. Waited a long while here. Now he is off. Broomhead accelerates away as the green flag is out. And in second, Joel Keller is going to follow him, managing to stay ahead of the Kinetic Racing number 63 car with Gabriel Roos. They all swing down into Dewan, and it's pretty single file by the time they exit it. Let's head over to Steph for the GTEs.
Rinse and repeat for the GTEs. They're already very single file as well here at the start. Jesse Butler got a very nice start. He is off and away, but 2 car lengths already ahead of Eric and Mickey of the Sims TV Bombshell Racing Team. There's a little bit of a fight going for 5th position in the class right now, but let's go back to Sam.
The speed difference. Oh, and we got one car in the wall there on screen, but the speed difference between the classes is so much. The GT4 car only at Siberia. They've been racing for about half a lap before the green flag flew, and it's Missed Apex F1, the podcast team Porsche, leading that field.
Oh, we've already had incidents with multiple of our LMP1 cars, including the Team iRacing machine, the number 7, which is a very high up qualifier. I see Kinetic MTEC's number 66 and the Devotion Sim Racing purple car, also very slow and getting mixed up with our GTE class.
Oh, there's another one, Joe. Evolve Sim Sports Obsidian. Joey Haynes, he also had a wreck outside of Siberia.
So, as we watch the number 66 slowly try to work their way back on, let's head back to our racing on track. 4th for the LMP2s. The number 68 car going to be swapping positions because the VRS satellite number 67 has Liam Rance going around the outside of Dewan. And that's going to be an easy 4th place, but it's a ways up to the next vehicle, 4 seconds after just 1 lap.
Yeah, we actually saw quite a lot of spinners in the LMP2 class in this first lap, because out of the second last turn, Austin SPD also did spin his LMP2 car. So wild start for these guys, was extremely calm thus far in the GTE field.
And our class leader in GT4 has binned it. John Land, driving the number 205. Missed Apex F1 podcast team Porsche, is in the pits for damage. He binned it out of Siberia on the first lap, so got the jump at the start, and then things went south.
And that was all on his own, I can report. Just put wheels in the grass and car flipped over the edge of the track. The VRS Satellite Racing number 67 car just went off. And I think that was at Lukey Heights. There you can see him returning. It doesn't look like the car's damaged, interestingly, though the tire tracks went out to the wall, so maybe he got away lucky. That's going to put him down.
Got a battle for the lead
class.
in GT4s. A slow exit out of Siberia for Murphy Nichols in the number 286 and number 26. Up alongside, and sorry, that wasn't Siberia, but here we go. They're going through the hairpin. They're coming out to Siberia now, actually. Still side by side, and the 26 BMW on the inside, the 286 Porsche on the outside, and this has been going on for a few corners. Still a drag race, and it looks like the 26 is finally able to complete the pass as they go on down the back straight.
Waddell in his BMW up to the top spot, and off the track goes Nichols, the Grid Life number 286 car, unfortunately losing 2 positions in successive corners. So John Nichols in the 288 is now up into P2, and this is without the traffic coming through, as once again our leader goes wide, and it looks like Waddell is going to be under threat. Defends to the inside. Nichols can't do much with it. Maybe he can get a slipstream down the front stretch.
And here come the LMP2 leaders. Behind them, the perma lap down already. Well, the GT4 leaders are only just completing their lap number 2, and they've already had about 4 lead changes.
And was that a lead change in the LMP2s as well? Yeah, that's the number 23 with Phillip Brox's going past Broomhead and up to the top spot.
Oh, and I just saw Jason Enrique of Scuderia Monza have his worst life ever through turn number 1, as Jack Waddell also goes extremely wide through turn number 2. That's Southern Loop for you guys. Yeah, it has been quite chaotic already in the LMP2 and the GT4 class, but it has been super easy driving for our GTE leaders still, while all the stuff was going on in the GT4 class with their passes. Actually, there was also a pass in the GTE class. Ethan Osowski of SS Racing, Porsche car there in second place, got past Eric Mickey of Sim TV Bombshell Racing Team. That's a 186 car. So just 1 position move here in the top 5 of the GTE field in the first 4 laps.
But now they're starting to have to deal with some of the recovering LMP2s. This is not lapping LMP2s, but drivers that had spun and are just simply trying to get back with their class. They are coming across some of the slow GT4s, which is going to certainly cause a little bit of a headache. Down to the inside, Gabriel Roos in the Kinetic number 63 is able to get by our GTE leader of Jesse Butler. But now look at how close behind Osowski in the number 2 is getting to him. This is for the lead in this middle class.
Yeah, just 1 passing maneuver on that GT4 car stats. Let's have a look. Ethan Osowski, he does get a quite good run here through turn number 12. Jesse Butler is going to cover off the inside. Ethan Osowski is actually moving over to the left. This gives the opportunity to Ethan. There's also LMP2 behind. He's going to stay back there. That is the first lead change here in the GTE class. Ethan Osowski, SS Racing, the number 2 car, goes into the lead.
Butler looked like he didn't really want to fight that one too hard. It's still 2 hours and 53 minutes left to go, so he'll probably get chances to gain some time back. Haven't missed anything at the front of the 2s. Phillip in that number 23 as well.
Oh!
And that's our leader going off.
Yeah, outbreaks himself on the inside of 2 GT4 cars. That's 3 positions lost for him just in a matter of a turn.
And Murphy Nichols, P2 in GT4, has just been knocked off course. And here's a battle in the LMP2s.
Yeah, that is Actually, well, no, that was Broomhead being passed by Styles and the Fitzy Motorsports Aries machine. So interesting. Broomhead seems to not quite have the pace that Driscoll did, who qualified for this team. He's got them up there, and I guess they're going to be putting Driscoll in for the anchor as Broomhead continues to drop down the field. So it's all kicking off here. Where did that second place in GT4 wind up, Sam? I didn't quite catch.
Yeah, he dropped back quite a bit. I also want to point out that the part Stefan made a moment ago about Waddell going off at the Southern Loop. He lost several positions after having been battling for the lead in GT4. And there is Waddell on screen. So the Grid Life iRacers 2 Bombshell Racing, the number 288 machine, has a pretty handy lead over the rest of the field now, because the rest of them have kind of all run into issues. So John Nichols leading for now, but he is busy watching his rearview mirror as this track curves to the right and to the left at high speeds, and that's really making all these close calls that we're seeing so far today. It's kind of why we're seeing that, and we should emphasize the fact that there are no free repairs in this series,
which makes all these spins and hits that they've been having even worse, because they're going to have to take some of that time out of their pit stop to bang the cars back into place. Let's head up to the number 16. That's the Scuderia Monza car, who is P5 and LMP2s. He is hot on the heels, is Jason Henrique on Darwin Meitz for the 4th position.
And they are also going to come up to some traffic right now with a GTE just ahead of them. It's Matthew Ragsdale of the Missed Apex F1 podcast team Beamer. They're going to go around the outside of him, and that's also Matthew Schneider. Now that they're going to go past a bit of traffic jam ahead of them as well, with Benjamin Johnson and a GTE as well as a GT4 to the outside, a little bit close there for Darwin Meitz.
Yeah, everybody in line had to check up. Picking the wrong side around the Corvette. Unfortunately, Meitz finds himself slowed up massively and loses the spot. So, excuse me, that was a Ferrari he went by.
Yeah, that BMW you saw in the background out wide there, that's Mike Tyler, driver of a CMSRacing.com number 178 machine. He went into the wall exit in the final turn.
Oh, and off of the Southern Loop, I cut a car off, don't need to go to it, but Zach Brown in the number 102. That's the Forge Endurance 404, gets it going. But already we've seen a number of drivers have difficulty through some of these very tricky corners down here in Australia. Your leaders for each class still the Topaz 23 with Phillip Brox's car, or Phillip Brox is driving that car up in the LMP2s. Jesse Butler and the 163 Porsche Mach 1 Esports leading in the GTE class, and John Nichols and the 288 Grid Life iRacers 2 Bombshell Porsche leading the GT4s.
All this action, we're only 10 minutes in.
Yeah, a lot to keep track of for sure. And this is before we even get a caution, which is going to mix things up all the more. I'd be amazed if they even go without one, honestly.
Yeah, at the rate we're going, we're going to see that caution quite quickly here.
Yeah, most definitely. We have seen already quite a few cars going off track, making contact with each other. And kind of interesting, really unaffected from all of this is still that lead battle for the GTEs, while we're watching the battle for the LMP2s right now here, with the 23 being followed very closely by the 59. But it still is pretty much a continuous train from first all the way down to fourth place rather. In the GTE class. There we have Jesse Butler right behind him. This is already second place Eric Mickey of the SimTV Bombshell Racing Team number 186 Corvette.
And we just had a switch for third place over in the LMP2 class on the front straight. The number 16 Scuderia Monza being driven by Jason Henrique got that position from the number 68 Texan Fitzy Motorsport Athena, which drops to fourth in class.
There you can see the magenta and black car of the Scuderia Monza up on the podium positions. thought I saw someone wrecking. No, I think it's just a blinking connection.
Oh, and LMP2, P1 is right now side by side going down the front stretch into turn number 1. That's doing corner, and Jack Stiles gets away that position from Phillip Brexis of the Switch Toppers team. So once again, a lead change here in the LMP1. It's now the 59 ahead of the 23, but 23 comes back right away with the help of traffic to the inside, and he takes it back.
And I think, was that the same car that slowed up our battle we saw before in the LMP2s? It was Milwain and the Ferrari, and once again, lap traffic costing a lot of time as Phillip has to check up behind Brian Halleck. Now they're going to be able to find an opening coming up to Siberia as they weave to the inside of the Porsche. And then up next in front of them, that is Silbernagel. 8th in the GTE class. Porsche going to just hold to the right, make sure to give them a clear path through.
Yeah, Silbernagel, not the silver nail in the coffin of that battle for the LMP2 lead as they continue to fight their way into and through MG. A little bit of an update just ahead of them. It's still the battle going on for and now 4th place in the GTEs. Tom O'Gorman, the 188, has to defend from Ethan Osowski, who is still on his recovery drive after his bad mistake into Honda. He is to the inside of Duhan and takes away that position from the Corvette.
Talking about bad mistakes, John Nichols, who was our class leader in GT4 driving the number 288 machine, he just overshot the southern loop. That cost him a few positions, and there's a new leader in the GT4 class.
That would be the 179 car. Chris Taylor, currently for the CMSRacing.com team. He's not got a lot of wiggle room. He's only got about half a second back to McClintock, who's in 2nd, and Nichols, Murphy Nichols, not John, is sitting in 3rd. That's your podium, all separated by barely a second.
Oh my goodness, I've just seen a little bit of a wreck. It's already quite a bit back, so we're not gonna be able to probably get that replay. Thomas Green, the 58 machine of Sector 8 Racing, got collected by an LMP2. There we have him on screen, and he nearly took out Jesse Butler, your GTE leader. So it was mere inches between the two cars that they didn't make contact. So extremely lucky break for the Mach 1 esports team.
Well, he's taking his sweet time to get back onto the track. Oh, no, he's going to abandon it. So car 2 damaged to continue. He'll take a tow, and it's back into pit lane for that team with still 2 hours and 45 minutes left on the clock. So we come down the front stretch, still following the new 3rd place team. Suderia Monza, Enrique. Oh, has a spinning car in front of him. A little bit of smoke from Eric Mickey in the Sim TV bombshell number 186. That was one of our top 5 runners in the GTEs. He's going to slowly trundle back onto the course. It looks like the car is whole. I don't think he hit anything.
Oh, and P340 GTEs is once again quite the battle here. Matt Andrews. Oh, there's a wreck ahead of that camera shot. 51 around.
Yeah, that's Broomhead. We'll get back to him in a bit as we head to Matt Andrews, still giving a little bit of a hard time for Osowski, trying to keep him back in that 3rd position. Let's watch this from on board Osowski here and see what it's like dealing with all these cars going through for a lap.
And not too far in front of these guys is a battle for the GT4 lead. Chris Taylor is still currently holding that, but I'll bring you updates if the action there picks up.
Maybe another LMP2 go by. That's Maitsu just over to Osowski.
This might be good for this might be good for Osowski because that LMP2 is gonna hold up Andrews on the exit here. So let's have a look if he's going to get a good run. Yeah, look at that. Ethan is getting quite the run there, but has to check up as he gets the door shut right there by Matt Andrews. And here also comes Tom O'Gorman from the back. That is why Osowski goes to the inside. Oh, he's actually going to go for the overtake here on Andrews. Is he going to make it stick? He has the inside, gets it boxed in behind the 282 of the GT4 class. And look at that, Osowski. We were riding on board with him there for the pass into P2.
team driving from that number 2. And I have to say, they're only 3.5 seconds back from Jesse Butler. Considering the mistake that they made through Honda hairpin, it's impressive that they're this close to the leader still.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit chaos mixed in with this kind of multi-class racing, LMP2s and GT4s. Normally that's something you would see all together, but here we go now once again, looking back, that is behind him, Liam Rance of the VRS Satellite Racing team right now. 7th place, and that's a big crash.
That's the leader! That's the leader of GT4! He hits P2 in GT4!
Right into the wall.
Out of the final corner.
Oh
and
my
up in
goodness.
the air, Chris Taylor slamming back down. Good thing this is a video game.
Looks like Matt Andrews was one of the others involved with that, and
My
John
goodness.
Nichols.
Wow.
There's the 288 of John Nichols that has taken a tow, unfortunately. As we unfortunately won't be able to see a replay of that one. So the new leader now in the GT4s is John McClintock. The 218, I'm sure he's going to be looking over his shoulder after seeing that happen.
Yeah, and I think that crash just took out like 3 GT4 cars, if I saw that all correctly. 2 of which were lappers, but still, that is quite the knockdown on the field that we had in the GT4 class.
It was already one of the smallest fields, unfortunately. Now we've lost even more of them. There we see the Kinetic teammates, Espedy and Roos in the 63 and the 69 machine get on by our leader in the GT4s. They've just lapped now Silvernail, Black Tree Race Crew number 75, trying to just carefully let them pick by in his Porsche.
Ooh, we got trouble in the hairpin. The 105 has gone off and came back on and collected a couple of other cars.
Yeah, that's Chris Sherburne. Oh, and looks like Robert Covey in the number 72. That's the Howler Racing car. Also trying to recover out of MG. His Corvette is able to move under its own power, so thankfully he'll be able to try and get back going. He's currently sitting in 15th.
Yeah, Sherburne there just a little bit too wide going through Lukey Hayes, and that's why he ended up on the inside there of MG collecting that Corvette. But yeah, it seems like that he was the guy that got most of the damage from that crash, as once again Brian Hallock to the outside of Southern Loop. Second time trouble through that turn for him. There we can see him coming back onto the track, as well as actually we're looking
Dan
at
Garber.
Robert Covey.
Well, yeah, Dan Garber and Tyler Beeman. Beeman was in the blue and white number 282 you saw having to almost take evasive action, and Garber in the 133 Corvette that for some reason was just slow down to the inside. I suspect it might have been related to Torres, unfortunately, because they were off at the same part of that curve. Got a little bit of an apology over the radio from the 105 Sherburne, who we saw earlier off.
Benjamin Thompson, 4th place in the LMP2s, had an off at the Southern Loop. He lost actually 2 positions. The number 15 passed him. That's Peter Salem, Bombshell Racing Team, and Elite West Racing. Both passed him, so he is now back into 6th position.
Screen, we're watching Snyder in the 107. Oh, going wide! And that's Darwin Mites in the number 15 that hits into the back of the 242. Matthew Ragsdale facing the wrong way now at the very bottom of the hill. Oh, my goodness. Started to see a bit of a theme here with, you know, this goes back to what you were talking about, Steph, just not anticipating the speed difference between the classes.
Yeah, at a track like this, it's extremely hard to judge where that car's going to end up once you are there. Like we can see right now, quite the traffic jam ahead of Phillip Bruxas, who is still in the battle with Joey Haynes I think, no, actually Joey Haynes is quite a lap car for him, but he is right now going through the middle of GTE and GT4 traffic and now heading into Siberia, just ahead of the car that we are looking at, the 8 now on screen here. But it's just incredible how much these guys have to fight through all of that traffic and still be somewhat competitive while having, it's just basically to deal with the carnage unfolding ahead of them.
You might recognize that evolved paint scheme back behind him, though, that green and white of Michael Broomhead, who was up towards the front at the start with grabbing the pole. Fortunately, already down to 9th, and with a lot of work to do, still lapping quite a bit slower than our leaders currently, and under threat once again. Jeff Schmeier currently behind him in the number 30, and is that for position? Yes, it is. That's the Kinetics number 63 car with Roos currently in it. From his helmet cam as they fly onto the front stretch. They're already at 170 miles an hour when they exit that corner and continuing to pick up speed. And there goes one of our GT4s on the inside. That was John Lang in the 205. You could see just the massive difference between them by the end of the straight. Only going about 152 miles an hour was Lang versus Roos, who was up to 190.
In case you're wondering, that was Dan Garber to the outside, Speedworks Racing, who was making his way back onto the track at the Southern Loop. As, these guys it's just incredible speed difference, which we didn't really see. Oh, big wreck up ahead.
Yeah, the 26 just got turned upside down by the 67.
Oh no. Let's see if we can see what happened here. This involved Liam Rance in the 67.
Jack Waddell in the 26. He's been very fast today. He had issues earlier on, but had rallied his way back up into 3rd place thanks to all the carnage that we've seen in the GT4 class. But unfortunately, there became more of the carnage himself.
Yeah, he got scooped up, and then that, unfortunately, was the Grizzly Motorsports 107 machine.
Yeah, he actually turned him back up the right way, Joe.
Now, whether or not that's intentional or not, I'm not sure. The Corvette gets back on track and is still running in 19th.
Might be 20th, as they are right now side by side with the Fortune Endurance 404 down the front stretch going into turn 1, so 19th or 20th. But yeah, that most definitely was not planned by Matthew Schneider, who himself had a little bit of a mistake through Siberia. That's why he ended up inside the 26. Oh, another spinner.
And who was that? That was right near our
Mike Tyler,
pole sitter.
The 178.
Let's see if he lost any positions on this one. He was already pretty far down the order, it looks like. This definitely gave a scare for Broomhead and Roos. Thankfully, we were able to make it by without major incident. Wonder if we could pop back up to P2 in the LMP2s. Because Jack Stiles has barely 0.2 of a second over Henrique. And they're also dealing with traffic. The Wayne just in front of them off of the Southern Loop. Not able to get the exit he needs, did Henrique, so he won't be able to attack here into Honda. They're going to come and lap some of their own class, though. Jake Fox in the Kinetic Racing 66 is just ahead.
Yeah, these two have been quite close for the past few laps, actually. I'm hoping that they're being patient with one another, because I kind of feel you have to be patient at this point.
Well, there goes that.
Animation.
Took a little bit of a look into Lukey Heights, not typically a place to pass. And unfortunately for Enrique, he has to second guess it. Backs away. We could get a slipstream down the front stretch. Let's see if they're approaching any other cars in traffic. Stevens and Waddell. Man, Waddell has had just a whale of a day already. Should be able to just stay out of their way. Yeah, he's already going to be overtaken easily in a straight line.
Still running.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's still running 4th, though, despite all the damage. keeping going.
So no help for Henrique from the traffic down the front stretch. Up next, Matt Andrews in the 164 just in front of them, and I think they're going to get him right about when they hit Honda. They're going to let Jake Fox go through. No, but Fox is going to outbrake himself. Nearly goes off the track. Gets ever closer to our leaders as he finally gets to the inside of the number 164. All of them able to sneak through safely. Just amazing how anybody can keep their focus around this place today. Hopping on board with Jason. The Sudarita Monza car has been stalking the number 59 for a number of laps. Whoa! And a little bit of a mistake off of the penultimate turn sends Jake Fox across their path, but eventually out of the danger zone. And P2 battle continues now with clear track and a great little bit of draft for the 16. He gets to the inside as they come up to Dewan, but they come up to a GT car, which is going to take this portion of the track quite a bit slower. Still can't get the pass done. Styles is going to deny him. He gets checked up, though. Henrique has no place to go. Looks to the outside. Not an opening there. Back to the inside, using the slipstream. Gaining a few precious inches. Back to the inside once again as they come up to Honda corner. And they're going to be given space from the GT4 of Murphy Nichols, who narrowly lets them through. And still, Henrique can't quite find something that sticks.
Yeah, and speaking a little bit of things that stick, we saw the GTE field stick quite together at the start of this race, in the first about 30 minutes of this race actually. That has changed quite a bit because we are now right behind of Thomas Silbernagel, who is 4th place in the GTEs. He is quite a ways down already on 1st place. That's still Jesse Butler of Mach Esports. He is now going into turn 1 as we might have a passing opportunity here for Enrique.
Be able to easily go by Todd. Henrique watching, and once again he runs out of straightaway before they hit Dewan and has to check up. We'll get a small respite from the traffic as they continue to race each other. Up next for them, Matthew Ragsdale, racing in the lower levels of the GTEs currently. Just by himself, no one to fight with right now.
As that is Thomas Green of Sector 8 Racing to the outside there of Honda. And to finish up my point, the GTE field has split up quite immensely already after the first round of traffic chaos that has brought them ever so close, and then as we are right now quite far away from each other, there's about 1.5 to 2 second gaps between our top 5 right now in the class.
Yeah, we just watched Butler there up at the front, and this is O'Gorman. And the 188 still trying to give chase. Opportunities will come. You can't consider this dire right now. Not even halfway into this race. We're not even a third of the way into this race, frankly. There is so much left to go here. A little bit farther behind them, Middle Finger Racing is...
Oh! My goodness, I'm sorry. Jason and Enrique just had it coming together through Duhan with Tom O'Gorman, the 2nd place GTE that we saw just a few moments ago.
Left a little too soon there, unfortunately. Looks like both of them able to keep going.
Oh, our lead GT4 car hard in the wall, the number 218. John McClintock had a 3-second race lead and has just binned it coming out of a final turn, all on his own.
Man, so many of the leaders in the GT4 have been having a miserable day. Let's take a look at the replay. Oh, wow, he was wide very early in that corner, and it's a monster hit into the inside wall.
I think I know what happened there. He got lapped by 2 LMP2s, and the first one of the 2, Travis Henderson of Grizzly Motorsport, was actually slightly blinking to the inside of him, and I think that's what threw him off so much on his line, and that's why he wrecked.
So the new leader in GT4 is once again Grid Life iRacers Bombshell Racing, the number 286 machine, Mr. Pink Wheels, flashing his headlights, letting his fellow GT4 driver know, get out the way, I'm the leader.
Yep, and they're going to have Joel Keller and the Team iRacing machine still running down in 16th despite starting in 2nd on the grid. Their spin at the very start has been horrendous, just unfortunately hindered them in big ways. And they are probably at this point hoping for some sort of caution. They've only gained about 10 seconds on the leader. They were in danger, unfortunately, of almost going a lap down for a lot of laps. How about back to P2 here? Styles and Henrique. This has been one of our best fights on the track for quite some time, and here comes another opportunity to the way of Jason Henrique. He gains a little bit of time, but then loses it by the time they hit Lukey Heights, leaving around Dan Garber. Garber holding off to the left into MG, and they are through and by. Oh, but could he get the run down the front stretch once again? So far, it hasn't proved fruitful, Steph, but you know, he can keep trying, and I have to imagine it's not going to be able to be held back forever.
Yeah, it does seem like right now turn 11 is the crucial point for Jack Styles, where he can get enough run that he does get under pressure here into T1. And also Enrique, like you once again saw right there, he just is a little bit tentative into doing not a really bad thing per se, but when you know that you are the faster car, like it seems in this situation with Enrique being the faster car stuck behind Jack Styles, you have to take those opportunities, because now as they enter Honda, you're gonna see once they exit, there's a Congo line of cars once again right ahead of them.
The first up going to be Thomas Green. Then they get a short break before it's Torres, Ludwig, Jaeger, and Mike Tyler, all one after another in GT cars. Here they come now, approaching them on the way up towards Lukey Heights.
And the problem is for them, they are actually fighting those 3 GTE cars, Jaeger, Ludwig, and Torres. They are fighting for, I think that's 10th place in the class.
Looks like about 14th among them from what I'm seeing on my time in scoring. But whatever the case, it is indeed for position. And, well, one's going to get through. And did we lose? Where did Henrique go? Henrique pitted.
Not a bad spot, to be honest. Remember, these guys can only go about 35 minutes on fuel. So a little bit of a short stint for him, it seems like. Actually, he's pretty much on the dot with 35 minutes. So Enrique sees that Congo line and decides to pit instead with the 23. Going through Sabiro. Enrique already off the pit limiter once again, and he did not take tires. So fuel only stop for Enrique as he exits the pit lane just ahead of Silvanaga.
And we haven't mentioned this yet, but they're using the short pit exit here for this lead. So...
Oh my goodness, where is John Lang going? I'm sorry, he did exit Doohan to the left and enters the raceway out of the southern loop.
There he is on screen.
Well, he was doing very good earlier on, but that car's been badly damaged. So my guess is it's due to the ill handling that this incident happens, or maybe it's contact.
No, didn't touch anybody on my screen. Let's see if we can get the replay. I think we might not be able to get the moment where he goes off. Yeah, unfortunately not. But I can tell you that it looked like you got scared off, Steph, by some LMP2s that came through pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, well, he had to take a little bit of a wider line because of that GTE. But the thing for Tron was he just had so much on it because he took Doohan too fast, and that's why he ended up on the other side of that grass. Now, we have to mention there is no tire wall whatsoever here in iRacing, but in real life, they actually added a tire wall through the middle of that part so that cars and motorcycles can't do what John just did.
Yeah, John, I think the ill handling of that car from all the damage probably contributed to that. Just to give a shout out, we've been talking about all the drivers having bad days in GT4s. The one driver that's really capitalized out of it is Tyler Beeman in the number 282 Mad Sim Racing Yellow Machine. He started 9th out of 10 cars in the GT4 class, and he's made it all the way up to 2nd through others' misfortunes. So congrats, Tyler. I hope I haven't just jinxed you.
Our leader has recently pitted. We saw him coming out of the lane, Phillip Brox's, as we take a look at the Roscoe machine. Oh, and who was that off track? Just
that's the number. That's the number 167 being driven by Jonathan Diggs.
Let's see if that was caused by somebody else, because no, I think it was a solo incident, but still, ooh, yeah, perfect example of why it's so tough to get around the southern loop.
Yeah, the problem with that turn is it's a rather fast entry, but it tightens up in the middle, and it also switches camber from positive into negative camber, so you really have to be careful what you do, and especially where you place your car, as we have a very slow LMP2 coming out of turn 11. I think Thomas Lovelady actually ran out of fuel in 6th position in class.
Yeah, it looks like you're right. He's very slow on track, and he definitely does not have enough speed.
No, because
to be able
other cars need that pit entry. It's pitting time.
Yeah, and it's very narrow. You can see he pretty much takes the entire entry lane. It's downhill, so he's starting to scoot a little bit more forward, but oh my goodness, I'm hoping we don't get anybody else.
John Lang!
Can we get it on board with John Lang, the 205 there, that just managed to get around him, diving through the grass.
And now the problem here for John Lang is that because he did drive off the pit entry, that is actually counted as an unsafe pit entry, so he's gonna have to serve a stopping go penalty for that.
Yeah, the last thing you expect to see is an LMP2 going that slowly right in that spot. I mean, still great job for conserving the car and keeping it from becoming a wrecked heap. And he's serving that pit entry penalty right now, it appears.
Yeah, running out of fuel, though, is a mistake you really don't want to be making here. I mean, you'd never want to make it, but in a race that's, let's be honest, this is a race of attrition. In a race where you've got to worry about other drivers so much, something as simple as keeping an eye on your fuel numbers, you can't be taking yourself out that way.
Rookie mistake for sure. Meanwhile, nice battle between, I think it's Michael Thompson and Gabriel Roos here. They're going to go side by side. The number 63, 3 wide for a moment. And I think Roos is going to be able to take P7 away from Thompson. Tense moments in the middle of the LMP2 pack.
I did not expect that to happen right there, but they kept their cool, unlike I did, and Gabriel Roos was able to take away that. Actually now 8th position, I think it's actually now 7th position in class. Gabriel Roos a little bit wide there on Honda, but he is still going to continue. Next car in line for him is, I think that's actually Austin SPD in 5th place in class, right now going into Luke Yates.
There you see SPD about 5.5 seconds ahead. Gonna get held up a little bit here. Murphy Nichols just the wrong place at the wrong time for him. Nothing that he did wrong, but gonna cost SPD that little bit of time that he needs to try and retain this top 6 as he flies back onto the front stretch once again. This marks all of our LMP2s having finished their first set of stops, their first scheduled set of stops, as everybody's been in and out.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here is the different strategies that we have seen in that class. Kuduriya Monza right now is leading the LMP2 class. Remember, we saw them fighting against the 59 of Jack Stiles for second place before the pit stops. So Switcher Topas is now in second place. That's still Phillip Brexis in that car, but he did take tires for that stop. And Jack Stiles, he also did take tires in that first pit stop with the sister car Athena. Benjamin Thompson now in that car. He took over on that first stint. Actually, no, he didn't. Sorry. My mistake.
P2, I jinxed him. The 282 just got turned. Tyler Beeman, rather, by one of the LMP2 cars. He keeps going, though.
So we're going to watch the replay. It's Joel Keller and Jeff Schmeier, who unfortunately are going to make contact with him. This is Beeman. You're going to see the red, white, and blue LMP2 just tip the back, and unfortunately Schmeier in the silver one just... he was a completely innocent victim in that.
Oh, and I was about to say, that gave the 26 second place, but if we go back live, the 26 has just gone off at the southern loop and yielded the position back. So this is Jack Waddell, who I want to give a Dory Award nominee to. He just keeps swimming because he's still running in third place despite all the incidents for that car. He was in second place for about 20 seconds there.
I'm trying to think if we've ever given a Dory Award to a podium finisher on the channel before. It's certainly been a hectic day for that number 26. But yeah, credit to him. Somehow still in third, as the world seems to collapse at times around that BMW.
Yeah, well, for the record, the leader in the GT4 class just went off too. He got back on and didn't lose the position. No need for a replay, but just to tell you all the fun that's going on in GT4.
If you want to call that fun, it is. But yeah, if you're Jack, well, I think at this point you're most definitely scared of LMP2 cars already, with how many coming together he already had with those cars. As it also seems like the pit stop has been open for the GTE class of things, as Matt Andrews of the extensive Fitzy Motorsport hardest arrives into pit lane.
This is a bit early for GTE cars to make a scheduled stop, unless, well, maybe they're trying to work it backwards. No, they do have damage.
The 286 has spun. Our race leader in GT4, Murphy Nichols, has had another spin, and how much... this is a costly one. He might lose the lead in class. I'm trying to find out where Beeman is.
He was almost a full minute behind, actually, so I think, yeah, they're going to be able to get back on with plenty of cushion. Such is the monstrous gaps between our leaders in the GT4 class. That's we have to wait a bit before the timing and scoring updates, as Beeman has to hit the timing lines and update where that sits.
Honestly, at this point in time, we should just give the Dory Award to the whole GT4 class at this rate, because they have been in so much trouble and just keep on going, because they know, well, if I just survive, I might win this race just by surviving and still having four wheels on my car.
Well, I think that's the annoying part for the drivers, especially the LMP2 drivers so far, is I don't think anyone's out of this race. Because we're not even an hour into it. We've seen a lot of incidents, but everyone knows as soon as they get their cars repaired, they need to get back out there because their competitors could be in an even worse accident later on.
Actually, we did lose two GT4 cars already. CMS Racing.com Team 2 and Grid Life iRacers 2 Bombshell Racing. While the CMS Racing.com Team 2, the 179, is still in pit lane. Remember, that was the car just absolutely going flying at the front stretch. They still sit in pit lane right now, 23 laps down, but the 288 is already out of the race, so we have officially lost one car at least.
Oof, this lead in the GTE class with O'Gorman in front of Butler has suddenly tightened up immensely. They're dealing with Jeff Schmeier having to wait patiently and go 3 wide as they lap one of the cars within their own class. Robert Covey doing a great job, actually, in motioning where they need to go, and they're all going to cleanly sneak by. That will not help Butler that much, to his dismay. But the 163 has cut it down to about half a second and is putting the pressure on to try and see if they can steal the lead in their class.
Yeah, but remember, Butler at one point had a 6-second lead over the rest of the field, so I wonder if something happened to Butler that he lost all of that time, such a short margin, because if I remember correctly, we only looked at him like 2 or 3 laps ago.
I believe O'Gorman was leading after the pit stops. I think it swapped around a little bit. And a mistake coming off of Siberia. O'Gorman's going to lose speed. Butler saw that for sure. He's going to look to the inside as behind them, poor Benjamin Johnson in the LMP2 can't get involved. He knows this is a battle for the lead. Oh, and it's just not enough. I thought for sure Butler would have a slam dunk on his hands.
Interesting. Through turn number 11, this gives quite advantage to O'Gorman. And as also true, it makes up the classes here a little bit. Obviously, the GTEs didn't pit yet. It's the LMP2s that have done their pit cycle thus far. We are looking at about 3, 4, maybe 5 more laps for the GTEs until we see their start of the real pit window.
Indeed. There's a lot happening. Our brains are going a million miles an hour, almost as fast as these cars right now. As we continue to watch the fight between the Porsche and the Corvette. O'Gorman and the 188 approaching some of our slower GT4 traffic. Thomas Green just going to stay off to the side. Yep, actually has to almost take to the escape road. Goes off course as they continue on their merry way. Nearly hitting the 1/3 mark in this race soon. Drivers have been having to almost play dodgeball out there the way it's been going. Car we saw, of course, briefly, that was the Friction Racing 169 Alistair Catchpole. Unfortunately did not catch the car and went into the kitty litter. He gets back on track in 12th.
The drivers, I think you're watching the same thing I am, Stefan.
If it is the P2 battle for GT4, it most definitely is, because let's be honest, in Imola they didn't give us the most action that class, but yeah, I think this might be a really good battle here between Waddell and Beeman, Sam.
Yeah, well, so far that most of the battles in GT4 have been who can keep their car on the track. But yeah, the Beeman almost gets one at the back from a GTE car there. But yeah, it would be good if we could see these two scrap it out. I think Waddell has the pace advantage.
That's for the lead in the GTE, actually, and that's going to change the lead. Sorry to interrupt, but Butler used that to great advantage. We saw it right there. Just saw the check up from O'Gorman and absolutely blew by. Watching it one more time. Great heads up from the 163. Just perfect timing.
Yeah, I was looking at those two cars and I was like, hey, I know those two livers, but my brain couldn't connect the dots fast enough. And that was really a great move by Jesse Butler, because now also Michael Thompson has slotted in between those two cars to give Jesse a little bit of a breathing space for that battle for first.
Don't need to go to it, but I can update you that the 52 Evolve SimSport GTE car, that's the BMW, it unfortunately had a wreck with another car, got hit from behind and spun into Honda.
Oh! I'm sorry, Tyler Beeman just nearly once again got spun by a GTE going through the last turn. A GTE that once again misjudged the track out those GT4s have.
And on top of it, he had an LMP2 coming through right at that moment. It would have been a huge, huge wreck. Thomas Lovelady was just blasting up behind them. As we continue to look at our battle for the lead with our GTE class. That's Butler in the blue and black Porsche, O'Gorman in the blue and white Corvette. Just behind Travis Henderson, who's ninth in his LMP2 class, trying to stay patient to give him a good chance to try and go by cleanly. He gets one. and he's going to get the other.
I have to say though, right now, I just can't keep my eyes off that GT4 P2 battle between Beeman and Waddell. There's so much dynamic in that battle. They have a little bit of traffic, they get away from each other, and then just seemingly out of nowhere, they're close in together again and are pretty much nose to tail. Such an interesting way of racing, especially with having to match those LMP2s and GTEs, as actually Jack Waddell goes side by side with Tyler Beeman and takes away the position because of traffic.
Yeah, a little bit wide into MG from the number 282. And yeah, there you can see they're going to try and continue it on. Tyler's going to see if he can do something to claim it right back. They pick up speed, but a better exit for Waddell puts him at a little bit of advantage. Beeman, unfortunately, does not have enough of a draft, and so he'll have to settle for third.
Yeah, I think Beeman does have a pace advantage. It doesn't seem like the damage to the front end of his number 26 machine is compromising that too much. It might be hurting him in the turns, though, because he's definitely been off a few times. But, sorry, let me inverse that. Waddell has a pace advantage. But, you know, this isn't over for Beeman. Waddell has run into a couple of issues throughout today's race, and Beeman has done a better job of keeping his car on the track. So let's see if he can just hand here and see what happens in the long run.
I don't know if we saw it from the onboard of Beeman there, but Ernie Ludwig just completely messed up his braking point at Honda and shot about 200 meters. Or what felt like, oh, and there goes now also Waddell with a mistake, and he is once again behind Beeman. So Waddell once again has to try to get back that second place.
Oh, and our leaders of GTE just made contact. And we've got our Corvette back in the front. O'Gorman using Doohan to very brave effect. I don't know if we can get the replay. Sounds like, unfortunately, not. But I can tell you that O'Gorman just basically sent one up the inside when that Porsche was slowed up by traffic, barely clipped him, and they somehow came out the other side.
Yeah, honestly, that was quite a move by O'Gorman. Very nicely done from him. Have to give kudos. I mean, Butler did try to close that gap, but that door was just too wide open for the fast approaching O'Gorman to have Butler in time there. That's why they made that contact.
Fortunately, you can't shut the door once the horses are already outside of that barn. Butler's going to have to try and retake it back. We are getting within that pit window. I wonder if we'll see maybe one of them swap around with the pit stops. This is the battle for fourth, I think, in LMP2. That's David Meitz on screen, and Johnson's very close to him. There's a lot of traffic there for a moment.
I think Johnson just took away that position due to traffic. Darren Meitz being held up quite a bit by bad traffic that was behind them. Part of that traffic, once again, was our GT4 battle for P number 2. So it all kicks off at various different places all at once, and then it dies down once again. And then you have that clump of traffic once again, like we have once again through Honda, where we have also our 2 GT leaders going past a GT4.
Now, if a picture is starting to look a little bit different, there's a reason for that. This race has actually been held quite late in the day in iRacing's virtual standard time, as I like to call it. It's just gone 4 p.m. according to the sim. In May, this race is being held in May time as far as the sim is concerned. Sunset in May in Phillip Island is at 5:30 p.m., which is about 90 minutes from now. So add to all the drama and the elements of this race a little bit of darkness towards the end.
Oh, Gorman with contact there to a lap car, and that is gonna hold him up nicely for Butler, but there's so much traffic. Look at that.
Oh, everybody at different speeds, various classes. It's amazing that he's still got the lead. I thought for sure Butler was going to have another great shot at going by, but I think Butler saw what was happening himself, and he backed out of a few chances, decided it was better to keep the car together in one piece. Eventually, they're all going to finally get clear as Brissett in the number 53 LMP2 lets them continue on. Ooh, that was absolutely nerve-wracking. About 3 minutes out from our first hour mark in this 3-hour race. Your leader still in the LMP2s is Phillip Roxas in the number 23. Tom O'Gorman barely leading in the GTEs in the number 188 machine. And then Grid Life iRacers Bombshell has Murphy Nichols leading the GT4 class by about 45 seconds or so.
Yeah, good thing for Butler is that he noped the way out of that position there. But he once again is to the back of O'Gorman as they are still racing without taking to the pit stops. They're now going to finish lap number 40 here. So they're running actually a little bit longer than I expected. Look at that, Jesse Butler with a great run to the inside now of O'Gorman into Doohan. Side by side, he has the nose in front, actually a whole car in front. He takes back first places. There's also Edo Villa to the outside of both.
How many lead changes have we seen now in this GTE class? This is fantastic stuff. By the way, I can report for fans of Kinetic Racing, Gabriel Roos unfortunately hit another car in the number 63 and has since had to take a tow. It was a lot of damage. Riding on board now with the Corvette, watching as, oh my goodness, just freight training by some of the slower GT cars. Cam gives us a great view of what's going down. That's Beeman, the second place GT4 driver, very close to the rear end up into Lukey Heights. Gorman can't quite make anything out of it though. Differing lines between them as they go by a stopped car. Don Dolson, the number 72, just off track and going to return here in a moment after not hitting anything. And Butler's going to pit. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting that Butler isn't able to go another lap, so that means we are most definitely inside the pit stop window now for these GTE cars. Let's see if he is actually going to take tires here on that stop. Obviously gonna have to wait quite a bit for that because it's first fuel and then tires. Should be probably tires coming onto that as Henry Thomas Kirchner is gonna take over for Mach 1 Esports.
So, driver change in the number 163 car. I can report that they do have 3 people logged in for their team. Lee Vandenberg might take over a little later on, but we'll see. We've headed over to one of our battles in the LMP2s. Johnson ahead of Espedy. It's Fitzy Motorsports versus Kinetic.
Just gonna jump in here real quick. Henry Thomas Kirchner, he did not take tires, so very interesting strategy for the 163.
Yeah, so maybe saving it for the last stop as they come around out of Siberia. Espedy can't use the lapped car as a pick. David Hall just not in the right place for him. Weaving back and forth through more of the GT cars and up into Lukey Heights they go. And our leader pits. O'Gorman is in. Remember, this was a close fight with one of our other leaders. Where is Thomas Kircher?
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna take tires. They know that the other team didn't take tires, so if I would be in the shoes of Tom O'Gorman, who most definitely is gonna continue with another stint in this car, I would also go for the no tire strategy on that pit stop. Obviously, we're gonna wait here a little bit for him.
I can tell you that the Mach 1 Esports 163 is going through Lukey Heights right now, and that looks like tires, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that is the wrong bombshell car.
A little bit in front of him. Similar sister team, just other way around on the colors. There is Henry. Oh, and why did he motion towards the pits there?
I think he actually did drive onto the grass there and lost his car a little bit, if I saw that correctly. Yeah, he did. Tracked out a little bit too wide and nearly lost the car into the pit lane there. But you can see Kirchner now going into turn 1, where our P1 covered Dynamics Bombshell Racing already going through the Stoner corner.
Okay, there must have been severe traffic for that 163. There was only 2 seconds difference between their pit stop times, but there's now 12 seconds between them on the track. O'Gorman looks very handy. I wonder if we missed a spin from the 163. I'm going to go check on that real quick.
Yeah, also don't forget Macaroni Sport. That's a fresh driver into that car, obviously a little bit cold. Driving that car with also...
There was contact. There was contact between themselves and the Kinetic Racing 166 just after they exited the pits. So I don't believe we're going to be able to find a replay on it. I wonder if maybe, you know, what I saw with them almost looking like they might come in, if the 166 has a little bit of damage and they were debating if they should come in and get it repaired. Excuse me, the 163 rather.
Yeah, well, the thing at the pit entry, that was most definitely the grass on the outside that makes it extremely loose at that point. But yeah, there's going to be quite the telling story in the next few laps here for these guys, what kind of lap times they can do. I don't think we know the pace. No, actually we have a few laps here, 25 mid to a low for Henry here. In practice sessions, so we have to wait and see what Henry now can do in the race with that kind of damage.
GT4 stops have just began. The Mad Sim Racing machine that we've been following a lot during this race came in, so that's Stein is now behind the wheel of that number 282 machine. That's the new name. You're seeing a new graphic, and once again the GT4 leader has gone off. We got a couple cars off at the southern loop.
Now, from what we estimated, the GT4 has had the widest pit window of everybody, but I suppose that we could see some of them try an alternate strategy, but this was, Soper expected, and the 286 going to catch it? Yes, he is. Braking in the grass, not advised.
Still has a minute lead, though. Yeah, the interesting thing here, Joe, well, the unfortunate thing, obviously, for Mad Sim Racing is that now that pit stops put them a lap down to this 286 car. I was going to say the advantage is if a caution came out, which can't be in a distant future, I would imagine, given the amount of incidents we've seen today, and hopefully we're not about to see another one there. But obviously, the advantage of short pitting goes out the window if you drop a lap down with your pit stop.
Exactly. It's almost like oval rules. It's such a short lap around here. So they got to be careful about that. And I believe we've almost had all of our GTE drivers pit. Chris Sherburne, the last one in the number 105, takes his Sector 5 car down into the lane. And that should do it for our GTE class. We've passed the 1/3 mark, so we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the final 2/3 of round 2 and the Majors Team Endurance Challenge. Don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island, and we have our first caution of the day during our break here for the Majors Team Endurance Challenge. But this came at an interesting time for our LMP2 cars because they are just about at the right window for their second stop of the day. You can see many of them have elected to come in because of that. And I do believe we are seeing some driver swaps on top of it too. A couple GT cars decided to come in, including some of our GT4s.
Yeah, obviously the GT4s, those are your leaders that haven't pitted yet. And this is prime target time for these GT4s because they can make it from here on out with no more stops to go as they can go about hour 45 if they are good at fuel saving, as there is some smoke in pit lane as well. I can see it now on your screens as the LMP2s are racing off the limiter.
Ooh, and the first one out, well, that's actually a lap down LMP2, who is, looks like the Fitzy Motorsports
Benjamin.
number 68. Yeah, Benjamin Johnson. And he wasn't he down at about 6th or 7th?
That is Athena, I think so. Yes, he was in 5th place. Jack Styles, he's now behind him in 2nd. With Switcher Topaz, 3rd place. Claudia Crescentini took over from that. From Brexit there, as Kinetic Racing MTEC 69 is now going to be in 4th place. Daniel B. Johnson in that car. With Scuderia Monza, Steve Libretto has taken over that car from Jason Enrique. He is running out right now, your top 5 in that class. Oh, and Jeremy Morrison off track.
And we should be getting a wave around, I believe, for many of our cars. Are now ahead of the leader, but that'll happen in a bit.
Yeah, the interesting thing for GT4s, the 286 class leader there did not pit, but the more interesting thing for me, Joe, is the fact that where the pace car came out, the number 26 picked up the train before the number 286 did. So Drac Waddell, who is 2nd in class, and now they come into the pits. But here's the thing, that is P1 and 2 in class there, but P2 coming in first. He's pretty much on the tail end of a lead lap, Drac Waddell. So right there, for the moment that the 286 is in front, Murphy Nichols is in front in the pits, he's actually on his own lap in the GT4 class.
And Andrew Mick actually did take over that car, as also Ian Erasmus takes over from Jack Waddell. So driver changes in the GT4s in full flight.
Okay, this has changed the complexion of a lot of our fights for sure. I think they've just given the wave around. I was hearing the stewards. Yep, there goes most of our GT cars on by. Now, we won't always see this situation. It just so happened that our LMP2s needed to pit, and pretty much all of them pit. We could easily have an occurrence where some of them do not pit, and we'll have cars trapped a lap down or behind the pace car.
Yeah, well, we're not halfway time-wise in this race, and we've already seen the first caution, so it reasons to be that if we've hit this many incident points in the first hour of this race, well, there's still just as many cars out there on tracks, there's still just as much traffic and just as much chance for incidents. We'll probably see another safety car period before the checkered flag, if not two. And you can see one car off air. This is something we had when the safety car period came out. Even though we are under a caution period, these drivers are driving as fast as they can to catch up with the pace car, doing their wave arounds, or get caught up with the field so they could do their pit stops. We have seen some cars go off.
Yeah, and we actually have seen a pair of drivers on when the safety car came out that they actually collided in the tire wall with each other while trying to catch the back end off the field behind the safety car. So, yeah, interesting situations. I don't know when they reset that counter for the next caution period, but this is going to be really interesting because we still have cars going through the last turn as the safety car lights are out, and we're going to go back racing green with not a complete field behind the safety car.
Well, the good news on that is they should be relatively spread out for the most part, since they're all trying to work their way around. Pace car is now in. Benjamin Johnson has control of the field, and he's going to take off very early. He accelerates away. Green flag is out for Ben Johnson. Styles is a whole 3.7 seconds behind, and he's got a lapped car between the pair of them in the form of Joey Haynes, two of them. Dallas Pataska for VRS Satellites number 67 as well. So our new leader, Ben Johnson, in the number 68 Fitzy Motorsports Athena machine, got the jump on the field as the light begins to fade around here. It's certainly going to be a relatively short day in what is pretty much the Australian winter.
Yeah, about 1 hour till sunset time. Obviously, some new names to get used to, although several of the same teams obviously should be running up front in their class. To which I want to give a shout out to Forge Endurance, that they are currently running third in the GT4 class. We haven't gave them a shout out yet. Oh, and that's the, I think that was the Mad Sim Racing, the second place car in GT4 that was off there.
Was inverted. Patrick Stein behind the wheel of that car. I don't think they actually lost positions. No, they did not whatsoever, especially because Ian Erasmus, third place in that class, now fourth place, is still sitting in pit lane, and the 42 that is actually third place is still about a good fourth of the track behind the 282. So once again, like we have seen in Imola, Sam, massive gaps in the GT4 class.
Yeah, and Andrew Mickey is the new driver in control of that field, and he's just basically got to keep it on the circuit, and he should be able to have a good day because he has a massive lead over the rest of his competition, which our time in the scoring isn't quite able to keep up with, such as the dynamics, the ever-changing nature of this race.
What if we could go to P3 in the LMP2s? There is a lot of battles going on and so much traffic that they're going through. Crescentini in the Switch It Topaz car is trying to get away from all the drivers behind him. Looks like he's going to get a nice gap, partly thanks to Thomas Lovelady, who's a lap down. But then behind him, look at that. Daniel Johnson, the Kinetic 69. Darwin Mites in the number 15 for Speed Asylum. They are right on top of one another. That is for, whoa, and on top of the GT cars, that is for fourth place.
Now, Sam has talked about a lot of driver names that we have to remember that they are now in those cars. Well, I'm going to give you a name that you're going to be very familiar with, especially here on GSRC. Just behind the battle we're watching right now, that is side by side Steve Driscoll going to take away that. No, actually, that is just a lap car here, driving past Daniel B. Johnson. It's Richie Hearn. Yes, you heard right. That is a former IndyCar driver and GSRC commentator. Right now racing in the number 76th position, just a few car lengths back on Daniel Johnson.
As on screen we continue to watch Sam Roush and Jake Fox. Johnson, something happened to the car, the fifth place driver. Let me go check and see. No, doesn't seem like he had any big issues. Regardless, he's about 1.7 seconds back from Mites now, so well out of hopes of trying to overtake. Of course, Hearn, oh, and Hearn just went off. Richie Hearn's number 70 car takes a little bit of a trip through the gravel and returns, but is he going to lose his spot to the Monza machine? Soranzo, yeah, Soranzo, who's hopped in the 53, had to check up. He'll get a second shot at things coming down into Dewan. That's going to, no, excuse me, that's not for position.
Nope.
3. is just going to get his lap back. Excuse me. Thought that for a spot.
Yeah, it's actually
go ahead.
1 lap down. Actually, no, sorry, 2 laps down on Hearn. So really an aggressive move there by David Saran. So on Hearn, yeah, whatever makes you fly and doesn't rank out your competitor, you are going to be good with. As Crescentini, quite under pressure from Driscoll, doesn't mean a whole lot because Driscoll is a lap down. But the most important thing is Darren Mines. He could jump on the gap that is being opened by Driscoll because he is also just behind that green and white car.
Richie's still trying to put him back a lap down. Doesn't want to be held up. And I was about to say that Richie should be used to these caution flags coming from IndyCar, obviously having to deal with full course cautions relatively frequently over there. Will be experienced with these restarts and whatnot. Oh, we had banging wheels between Crescentini and Driscoll. That's the number 51. Let's look at the replay. Down the front stretch, the pair of them getting aggressive. Oh.
Yeah, and remember Driscoll, that is a lapped car to Crescentini, so not sure if there was a little bit of a lapse from Crescentini on the inside there. That's why they banged doors. Also, there was a little bit of a banger on Andrew Mickey, who is still your leader in the GT4 class out of the Southern Loop.
Yeah, Driscoll still wasn't letting them by, though. That's a battle for position behind him, 3rd and 4th, and I'm sure they'd appreciate it if a 51 would get out of the way.
Actually, the 51 did unlap himself just into that turn 1, so he is actually quite a bit faster than both of them, so hopefully that should not help them up too much.
Yeah, and sure enough, actually, the BMW kind of broke him up a bit there, so yep, you're right, I missed that, and now Driscoll has a bit of a gap between them, so the battle for 3rd and 4th can resume without being interfered by the Evolve SimSports Diamond machine.
And we had a change for the lead. Jack Stiles swapped with his teammate. I don't know if this is intentional. The Fitzy Motorsports cars, Aries and Athena, have changed 1st and 2nd. This was through the Southern Loop. I think we're coming to the replay here.
That was actually helped by GT Traffic and Johnson to the outside. He did touch the grass there, I think, because he got loose a little bit, and that is why we see now Jack Stiles back into, or rather for the first time in that first spot for the class and overall lead.
I said at the top of the show, last round proved that this game is not just about how fast you can drive the car, but how you can judge the myriad of situations that come upon you.
It's not going to happen for a little while, but something we'll need to keep an eye on. The number 42 of Jeremy Morrison, 3rd in GT4, is catching the number 282 Mad Sim Racing machine in 2nd in class.
You see one of the rare fights in our GT4 class.
Yeah, 7 seconds, 8 seconds the interval, so it's fluctuating a lot. Last lap, Morrison actually closed down 5 seconds on Patrick Stein, who's in the 2nd in class in the number 282 Mad Sim Racing machine. But of course, those lap times can differ lap by lap based on what kind of traffic that you're in. But yeah, we haven't gave much screen time to Forge Endurance today, but here they are running 3rd in class as we approach the second half of the event.
That has been happening. The number 70 of Richie Hearn is suddenly having to play defense on the number 69 of Daniel Johnson. This is heading up out of Siberia. Johnson actually managed to get side by side with him into Dewan, but seems to be dropping back. Makes me wonder if Hearn's carrying a little bit of damage on the car for straight line speed. Come up to some of the traffic. Sherburne and Critchley. And Critchley actually gets sideswiped. He's going to swing to the inside, making contact with Sherburne's Sector 5 105. That's not the first time we've seen situations like that between the penultimate turn and Swan Corner.
I'm not sure about you guys, but that did look a little bit like netcode on my side between Critchley and Hearn. As we're gonna see that once again on the replay. Let's have a look, and yeah,
definite netcode. So I know Sherburne was upset on the radio, but obviously I'm sure once his team lets him know what happened, he'll realize it was just kind of one of the pitfalls of racing over the internet. Hearn, in the meantime, has now got himself a nice handy gap of about 2.8 seconds over Johnson, so that splits up our fight for P5 in the fastest class. Not missing anything at the front of the GTEs. I know there was a big fight between the Calvert car and the Mach 1 Esports car, but it's about 4.5 seconds from O'Gorman to Thomas Kircher. Gonna take a look at them. Actually, no, we're gonna look at this battle for third. Very, very tight. This is between Crescentini and Mainz. Mainz is gonna get to the inside. Down into Doohan. Easy pass for the number 15 to put himself onto the podium.
Yeah, good job by Mainz there, getting past Crescentini, but might get held up a little bit here out of Doohan. And seems like Crescentini just as held up as Mainz. As they went past Tom O'Gorman, I want to give a little bit of an update in the GTE class, as Dallas Pataska with the fastest lap in the LMP2s. Henry Thomas Kirchner, while we had that wreck for him coming out of the pit lane the last time around, obviously the safety car did help him quite a lot, and he was able to get that back once again back to Tom O'Gorman to about, what's that, 5-6 seconds right now, so actually 4 seconds. So good job by the Mach 1 Esports driver to close in that gap, and it's ever so slimming down. And maybe we're gonna see that Porsche in a fight for P1 quite soon once again.
And we didn't see it on screen. O'Gorman got caught out by Soranzo in the number 53. He had to really jerk the wheel back to the right, not something you want to do in Swan Corner, to be honest. Thankfully, didn't lose the car. Flashing his lights to show the coming traffic that he is on his way. Gets held up by Jeremy Morrison, the Forge Endurance GT4 that we were giving a small highlight to just a few moments ago. So thankfully able to continue on, but we mentioned it was what, 4.5 seconds before? 3.8 now between himself and Henry.
Yeah, I just want to mention while we go back here, keep an eye on this battle.
This is still our battle for the lead in that GTE class. It's got to be very frustrating having to constantly make way for those faster drivers, and it's gone back up to 5 seconds now, as Thomas Kircher must have lost a little bit in that traffic.
Yeah, we just started to see this brewing in your screen, but if we go to the 282 Mad Sim Racing machine, something very demoralizing is about to happen here. Right behind him is the guy in front of him leading the GT4 class. And here we go. Micah is about to put the entire GT4 field a lap down.
When he's making it known that he really wants to. Keeps flashing his lights at him. He's not going to let him by easily, it seems. Maybe. Oh, is he going to pull over and let him through? Gives him the inside down into the southern loop. That's going to do it. That's going to complete the pass. So only one GT4 car on the lead lap of that class at this point. That is just an incredible job. And like you said, demoralizing for everybody else out there, because they're going to have to hope for some incredible strategy or amazing pace, or just plain good luck to be able to get back in this race.
And a little bit up the field back into the LMP2 category. We right now have a side-by-side situation here between Dallas Patasko of the VRS Satellite Racing Team and Steve Liberato. And Liberato of Scuderia Monza just lets him fly past right there. That means Pataska now into 7th position here. That makes him go up 2 positions, I think, in just a single lap. As also in the GT4 field, who was that? Luke Critchley went nearly spinning out of control at Lukey Hayes. He lost a lot of time there, but thankfully didn't hit anybody.
More bad news for the 282 Mad Sim Racing machine. They might be about to lose 2nd position because Morrison has run Stein down. They're going through the final turn now. Joe, the lap times for... Oh boy, almost contact between them. The lap times for the 282 machine have been about 5 seconds off a pace the last few laps. I wonder if he's carrying some kind of issue.
It certainly seems like it. As they come into the first one, he's going to be way too wide. Off into the dirt and the gravel for the 282. Thankfully did not hit anything, but yeah, that 2nd place gone for him. Fortunate for him, has actually multiple laps over 3rd, which is still the missed Apex F1 Tax Dodgers.
Well, over 4th. Over 4th. He just dropped to 3rd because that mistake gave the 42 Forge Endurance machine being driven by Jeremy Morrison 2nd place.
Ah, man, lots going on on track. You see Morrison now up to P2. Been keeping an eye on a lot of stuff. One thing that we don't need to go to because it's broken up, unfortunately, Mites and Crescentini, who have been very tight on their fight for 3rd, have split up, and Mites now has about a 1.5 seconds over the number 23. So LMP2 battle going apart.
I'm not sure if we can get a replay of it, but our overall leader and GT4 leader just almost had a coming together in Lukey Heights. Track Styles. Oh, and Track Styles is off as we speak. He's off in the grass, but he's got back on. But here we go. Watch this, Joe. Watch how close this gets.
Yeah, we'll see it in a moment. Oh, boy. I mean, great job for slowing it up. But unfortunately, right after the UK&I driver saves it, where did this happen? The 2nd incident?
Right here it's going to happen.
And it cost him the lead. Benjamin Johnson gets by. As Style goes off here, Johnson went by.
Well, he lost it in style, because it looks like as the car was almost sideways, he managed to save it in the grass, and he's got about 3 seconds to make up on Johnson. So Texans Fitzy have now swapped the lead back and forth between sister teams. And this is well ahead of 3rd place that I mentioned not too long ago, the Speed Asylum Bombshell, number 15, just basically has been trying to catch up in that 3rd spot in the LMP2s, but he's got about 20 seconds to do it, so he's hoping for a caution at this point. 15 on your screen, climbing up the hill. Richie, in the meantime, almost able to get 4th place away from Crescentini. So Crescentini, who briefly was looking at a podium, must have either got caught up with some traffic or had a bad lap or something. Because here comes Richie Hearn, the former IndyCar driver, is trying to improve this top 5. They're going to get traffic.
Whoa.
She sees it. Has to slow it up, unfortunately. Just didn't want to risk the car because Crescentini was going much, much slower. Are they going to split this other car? No. They'll both go to the right side. Richie Hearn still with his nose into it and backs out by the time they get to Doohan.
See, this is the thing, though, for Crescentini. The last 3 laps were all nearly 1 to 2 seconds off pace his normal lap time. So Crescentini either had extremely bad luck all 3 laps with traffic, or he is carrying a little bit of damage. So have to see here in the battle with Richie Hearn what really is the case here for the switch toppers. But it has most definitely been a fall a little bit from grace here, as they were running in first place for quite a bit in the first hour of this race, and now they only find themselves fourth, pretty much clinging on to fourth, nearly going to lose that to Richie Hearn here.
Hearn having a few connection issues along the way, which is not going to make this overtake easy. Small puff of smoke from Crescentini as he locks him up down into MG, clearly pushing hard. Claudio got a mirror full of the Las Vegas driver.
Oh, and Darwin Mines into pit lane.
Ooh.
And he extremely overshot the
Oh,
pit
big
end.
trouble down at the bottom of Lukey Heights. Joshua Collins has gone off and hit our GT4 leaders. He came back on. Now, the GT4 got away okay, but Joshua Collins, it could have been a lot uglier. And that's quite significant right there. What you just saw on screen, the 286 just got unlapped by the 42. I'm not sure if remoralization is a word, but the 42 is now back on the lead lap. So there's Joshua Collins. There's his mistake. Comes back on, hits the GT4 leader. Our GT4 leader is able to continue, but now he's no longer the only GT4 car on the lead lap, because I think the 42 was able to get on by.
If he did touch
Oh, no,
him,
he wasn't. He wasn't. Oh, we got another big incident.
Who's this with?
This is Samuel Roush and another driver.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
The iRacing, the team iRacing car. So
That was with Luke Critchley, and he nearly got shot all the way to Stoner Corner. So that is, though, quite entirely on Luke Critchley. As you're going to see here, he is just going to turn in on the number 7, and that is how they came together. Oh my goodness, who was that Corvette?
didn't quite see, but they got a big scare. Sad that the staff members out here today are not quite getting to represent what they could do at their full pace, as it's been downhill from very much lap 1. So Roush continuing on, but he's stuck in 15th. He's 3 laps down from the leader, and still 30 seconds behind the next car up.
So,
because... Sorry, real quick, Hearn did get by Crescentini while we were watching that, so he is into 3rd.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that battle as well, and because we had, shoot, who was that pitted? I think it was, wait, no, it was...
It was the Topaz car, wasn't it? Or no, it was not.
Speed Asylum? I think it was Speed Asylum. Yeah, Darwin Mines of Speed Asylum. There we go. The 15. They did pit, and that means that Richie Hearn, instead of going into 4th, he actually went into 3rd place with that pass. But obviously, it also means that these LMP2 cars are in sort of the mix of their pit strategy, as Crescentini might have a passing opportunity going down the front stretch here as he's closing in on Richie Hearn. Look at that speed difference as we catch that battle right now. Crescentini to the inside of Duhan, and he's going to take back 3rd place.
I'm starting to think Hearn does have some wing in it, or some sort of damage that's hurting his straight line speed, because he never seems to be able to pass in a straight line the way other cars are. They just went by Lovelady, if you saw that car off track, so that was a solo incident there. We should be getting close to that pit window, I want to say. I believe we should expect a few of our LMP2 cars to come in, especially now that we've seen Mites kick that one off. It's been roughly a half an hour since our caution finished up.
So, a little bit of stats here for you guys out there watching this broadcast. We right now have 2 Texans and Fitzy cars in front, about 4 seconds separated. It's Athena, that's a 68 car, leading in front of the 59 car, that's the Aris car, still piloted by Jack Stiles. Then we have the switching Topaz car of Claudia Crescentini. He's about 27 seconds or you're back on your leaders. We have then another 10-second gap to Daniel B. Johnson after this battle for third place. And then it is another 30 seconds back on Scuderia Monza. That's your 6th place driver. And they are already the last car on the lead lap, about a minute behind your leaders. So it's only 16, or let's say more like 10 seconds between 6th place and 1st place on the track, until we only have 5 cars remaining on the lead lap here in this race already.
You talked about Lovelady being parked on the side of a track, Joe. I don't think they were able to get going again. They just had to tow to the pits from turn 2. I also want to give a quick update. We're obviously watching this LMP2 battle on track. I was mistaken. It was not the 42 Forge Endurance machine that was able to get by the 286, so they are still a lap down, and as a matter of fact, they had an off a little while ago. So the Grid Life iRacers Bombshell number 286 machine remains the only GT4 on the lead lap.
You see our lead car coming out of the penultimate corner. Mickey's not had it all his own way, that's for sure. Had his own few scares, some contacts, some spins. Looks like he's going to get overtaken here by another of our GTEs as Anil Singh puts him another lap down.
You might have seen some skid marks on the front straight there. The number 26 Missed Apex machine was turned on the front straight last time by. I doubt we'll be able to get a replay of it, but it wasn't very ugly, but it could have been very ugly. There were a couple of near misses with cars going full speed down the front straight, almost T-boning him. But there we go. He was able to get going again. Is still 4th in class, I believe.
A bit of a scary moment there. That was Josh Wolf in the Grizzly Motorsports Corvette that nearly got into the back of him, locking the brakes up into Honda, but no harm, no foul amongst them.
And since we're talking about GT4 cars, 2nd place, number 42 car just went into pit lane, and nobody has taken over thus far. So very interesting for these guys, as there's still nobody in that car. Although we do have Dominic Warwick, the 2nd driver for that team, still in the session. There we go now. Car is back and away again. There we go now, Dominic Warwick into the car.
I wonder how often that happens in real life. We see it happen in Formula 1, where sometimes the car will come into the pits and they don't have the tyres ready. I wonder if in sports car racing teams ever come in and, hey, we don't have a driver. Where's our other driver gone?
I'm sure it's happened. Probably somebody getting fired for that one, though, if that is the case, especially at the high end. As we watch our leader in GTE, O'Gorman, continue to lead the way. He's got, looks like, about 13 seconds over Thomas Kircher, as he's still trying to make up some time. Unfortunately, they were in such a close fight for so many laps. It's sad to see that one split apart. Of course, everything could change in a heartbeat in this series. Hour and 15 minutes left to go. One of the closest fights we've got is in that GTE class for 5th place.
I have to jump in here real quick. 42 off track, way off track, actually did hit the outside tire wall at the southern loop. So Dominic Warwick, 1st corner out, and he's already to the wall.
And that's cost him 2nd position again. So the 282, the Mad Sim Racing yellow machine, has moved back up into 2nd place with Patrick Stein behind the wheel.
Meanwhile, on screen, this is Sherburne leading the Sim TV Bombshell racing car, the number 186. Behind them, that's not 4th position, that's Justin Garrick. They are going to be approached by an LMP2, but top 5 up for grabs between this pair. Is Christopher Reagan in the CT Racing number 19, just doing a nice job having to wait for them. But look at the draft that they're going to give the number 186. Is he going to try and go too wide? He's looking for it, sends it in down at Aduin, and Walker manages to grab P5 with a decisive move. Good stuff there amongst our mid-packers here in the GTE class. We were talking about only being left with 5 cars in the lead lap soon. Well, that's happening right about now because Johnson just overtook Libretto.
And that's the battle for 6th going on in the background there. That's a pass for 6th. Yeah.
Yeah, Driscoll. Wow, okay, so great heads up by the 51. Saw that happening and distracted even us to manage to squeeze by into 6th place, even though he is allowed. If I were him, I'd hold on to the tails of that number 68 and not let go.
And guys, the troubles for the 42 continue. He had an off at Honda after the off at Southern Loop, and now he once again had an off at Doohan. So Dominic Warwick really in trouble making his car work around the track. Good thing for him is though he has 2 laps on P number 4.
Let's continue to watch these two try to settle this battle. Driscoll. Or excuse me, no, it's not a battle. It's no, that's Driscoll getting his lap back, actually. Yeah, that's him going by the Fitzeye Motorsports Athena car up into the top spot, or up into the lead lap, and see if he can get himself back into the hunt. Could certainly use a caution, I'm sure, now that he's managed to do that. We're getting close to the 1 hour mark as well.
I wonder how dark this track will get in an hour. You can tell the sun's about to set in about 20-30 minutes.
Pretty sure we've done night races here before. Not often, but it does happen.
Yeah, the thing with this track is it actually gets quite dark here, but I don't remember how long it takes for it to get really dark after sunset. I think it's still about an hour after it really does get dark here at Phillip Island, but I might be wrong.
But I will say, ever since we've gone back green flag racing, I feel that the quality of a racing has been a lot cleaner than what we saw at the start of a race. I do wonder if we can make it to the end without another yellow.
It is a possibility, but I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it the way that they've managed to clean things up a little bit. Although, as we continue to watch Driscoll, he's had a few scary moments here weaving by the GT cars. Johnson's not able to re-lap him, so it is looking good for the 51. Try and make something of this. Still have about 13 seconds between our leaders in GTE. O'Gorman ahead of Thomas Kircher. So things looking relatively safe for the Corvette number 188. Believe we've got a little bit of time before we're going to start getting our LMP2s into pit lane. So I think we might take a short break here and come back after that. So stick around. There's still plenty of action here to come in the Majors Team Endurance Championship. Don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island. We are in the midst of pit stops for round 2 of the Majors Team Endurance Championship. And Cameron Dance is now our new leader in the LMP2 class. He's hopped into the Fitzeye 59 car and is ahead of his sister team, the number 68, with Harold Statler now in that machine as well. Trying to see, are we waiting? No, we're not waiting on Richie Hearn to pit. So he has taken his stop. He is still in a legitimate third, about 11 seconds back from P2. Then, of course, we've got the GTE class, which has Tom O'Gorman yet to take his next stop, ahead of Henry Thomas Kircher, who is in second in that class, and Aaron Stanley is a long ways back in third. 59 seconds between them. Big difference. Andrew Mickey leads in the GT4s with the biggest difference of any of the classes, a whole lap ahead of the next one behind. Patrick Stein is in second there. Dominic Warwick is in the number 42 for Forge Endurance, holding down third in that class. That's how the podiums sit in each of your classes, and we're just about getting to the last hour, as that's been happening a lot between the different classes, especially the LMP2s holding a pace advantage over these slower GT4s.
Now, I want to point out one thing. You said Andrew Mickey is leading by a lap. Well, he is leading by a lap and then some, because it's nearly 2 laps at this point, as second place is only a corner ahead of him.
Wow. I did notice that it looked awful close, and I thought, am I calling this wrong? Is he actually less than a lap down now? But wow, it's just been domination galore from Grid Life's Bombshell.
No, it hasn't exactly been a flawless race by them. I mean, we've seen that car off track spinning, but we've seen every car off track spinning. But you know what? They've all continued. As a matter of fact, 49th and 50th overall, the last 2 cars in the race are both still running, and they're both on the same lap. So I want to see those 2 battle it out to the end.
We might get your wish on that. Actually, let me check their lap times comparatively. Nichols in the Grid Life iRacers 2 Bombshells doing 42s and 41s. CMS Racing in 49th. Yeah, pretty similar laps. 25 seconds between them, though. Not impossible that could wind up next to each other in an hour's time.
Yeah,
and the leader of GT4 class is off at Siberia. Andrew Mickey has just lapped P2 for a second time, and then he got shoved off track, I think.
No.
That actually was just a self-mistake.
Yeah. Didn't touch anything, just was a little wide coming into... Trying to figure out which corner that is. Is that Siberia?
That's Siberia, yeah. Well, our good friend Bill Zahn tells me to make things exciting whenever I can. So here we go. He had the 2-lap lead, now down to 1.9 laps. So things getting intense at the front of the GT4 field.
I'm sure Bill would have enjoyed that call. By the way, another interesting thing about this that we should note is that we need to keep an eye on who's done enough laps, enough time out there for each of their teams. Now, it's not too complicated, so I think most of them should be good, but you don't want to fall afoul of that and lose your points that you could score for this race. Dance is coming around Swan Corner. Handy 30-second lead. Taking a little bit of an inside line around Josh Collins there, coming out of the final turn.
Joe, I just did a quick look down the GT4 battle. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 cars in GT... Oh no, I take that back. There are 4... There's a battle for 5th place who are on the same lap in GT4. But other than that, and the battle for 9th at the tail end of the full field, every GT4 car is on their own lap.
Whoa! And was that our leader hitting lap traffic? Cameron Dance misjudges it and finds himself in the back of Marvin Artman.
Oh, and he got hit again.
Makes a little bit of contact on the way out on top of it. Oh, and Dance is off again into the wall. He must have some damage. Where's Statler? Statler currently in second, is starting to gain quickly. Dance has the car on track. We'll get an update on the distance between the two cars pretty quickly here.
Pataska now gonna go past Dance here as there's a wreck ahead between a GTE and a LMP2.
There's the gap. It's down to 14 seconds, so cut literally in half between Dance and Statler. Fitsai Motorsports can't be terribly happy about that because they had a handy lead, and while it will likely be their second place car who inherits it. Whoa, and second place car just had a car spin out, Cordell Cologne. Oh my goodness. It's just been a nightmare lap for our Fitsai teams. There is, I believe, Statler on screen. That incident actually put Cologne into a fight with Edu Vila for 11th. No, it did not, because Vila just went off just now. Okay, then. Well, the racing gods do not want on-track battles, apparently, at this stage in the race.
Oh, and speaking about people off track, Rachie Hearn from 3rd place. He, I think, dropped to 4th. Yes, he did drop to 4th. So, Kinetic Racing MTEC, the 69 machine, driven by Daniel Johnson, once again got past Rachie Hearn.
Yeah, Hearn was looking at a podium, and unfortunately that's going to hand it away. So with an hour left to go, he's got to make up about 5 seconds, but they still have pit stops left as well, so...
Yeah, speaking of which, Patrick Stein running in 2nd place in GT4 in the number 282 Mad Sim Racing Yellow Machine is into the pits for his final stop of a race. He'll be able to come out in 2nd, a whole lap over P3.
Yeah, and P3 is the still troublesome 42 machine of Dominic Warwick. Yeah, he just continues to have trouble with that Porsche. Obviously, the Porsche, the more handful car to drive in the GT4 class, where the BMW is the more stable platform. The Porsche is the outright faster car. Though, as Warwick is experiencing right now, it is quite a handful, especially over curbs, which luckily not too much of a trouble here, but at other tracks that we're gonna go to, that Porsche might have a little bit of a harder time as the lights have just turned on.
Well, there we go. I believe that would probably mean that's officially sunset. Gregoire, who is back out on track in 2nd, is going to try and see what he can do to salvage something out of this race. Maybe hope for some luck to swing their way and have something happen to Mickey in the 286.
Oh, and speaking about the 42, once again, trouble for it, with Warwick going off track through Siberia without any help. Just misjudges once again his braking point and ever so slightly spins out. Oh, and he's once again off track at Hayshed as he gets led by an LMP2. He's hopefully not going to cause any troubles here. No, has a safe re-entry. That's a good thing though about Warwick. He has had so much experience now already with returning the track that he can do it extremely safe.
I wonder if you can end up laying down some ruts or some grooves out there in the mud that, you know, if you keep going off at the same turn, you actually gain grip that way. So it was Robert Gregory who got behind the wheel of a 282, who's in 2nd place in the GT4 field now. And we should mention, talking about, you know, it being hard to pass at places here and it being a bit of a tricky track where you can make mistakes. Are we going to see more of the same at round number 3? You betcha, because the next racetrack that these guys visit is Road Atlanta.
Yeah, and that's going to be an even shorter lap, especially for the LMP2s. just going to be lightning through there, and having to deal with GT4s and the S's. No, thank you. I'm glad I'll be up in the booth, not down on the track. Riding on board with Gregoire. Still in second in these GT4s. You're going to see one of those LMP2s fly by. That's Cologne. Now, we have had something brewing in our GTEs. It looks like maybe that's come apart slightly. For 6th place between
big crash for 2nd place, the 282. There we go. Robert Gregory hard into the wall, and that will give for 42 second position, I'm sure, because that's a lengthy repair right there.
He got help, unfortunately.
Yeah, once again, net code in that situation, the 282. No fault of their own. Edo Villa also really nothing he could have done there with it, as we're going to see that on the right there. Yeah, quite nice to see that net code.
And he was at a rate of knots at that point in the track, so when he hit the tires, it was a big impact. At least he's able to drive it back on its own power.
Yeah, but the problem was when he came back on there, that number 163 car you see just go by him, he actually had to take to the grass to avoid him.
Leif van den Berge has taken over that Mach 1 Esports. They're now in 3rd place. He is only the 3rd lap right now out on track. So GTEs seem to be also on the pit stop cycle, as the Bombshell Racing team, our former leader, the 188 in the GTE class, also now going to start their 3rd lap. As we right now have Aaron Stanley of the Texans Fitzy Motorsport Hades in 1st place right now, as I think we have a battle on screen.
Yeah, just saw a pass as Driscoll made Hearn look like he was standing still. The 70 is clearly limping, going from what looked like a pretty good shot at the 3rd now to having to fall to the back of the top 5. He's got 18 seconds to Aiden Pike, but every time they come down the front stretch, Hearn is a sitting duck. Hopefully, with at least 2 more pit stops in their future, they should be able to try and get that fixed and maybe get some of that top end back.
As he comes down to the bottom of a hill here, you'll see a car off in the grass on the left. That's Gregory trying to make his way back to the pits. Obviously, that car handling very poorly. No.
So, I've just made a very quick speed check here on Richie Hearn. He's about 10 kilometers an hour down on top speed. So, I'm pretty sure that he has damaged his underfloor somewhere in this race. Or one of his teammates, that is.
Didn't he make a little bit of contact as well, side to side with the car? I think it was ghost contact. So,
oh right, I forgot about that. Yeah, that might have been the trick.
Yeah, I think that also. You know, he could still have damage on the bottom because he has been through the grass a few times and clattered over curbs. The good news for fans of the 282 is they did make it back to pit lane.
So, we've already mentioned that this will move a 42 up into 2nd. Assuming he's in the pits for more than a couple of laps, and looking at that car, it probably will be. Going up into 3rd in class will be the 26 Missed Apex F1 podcast team. Now, this is the car that we saw off several times at the start of a race. Ian Erasmus is now behind the wheel. And I believe it was he who was pointing backwards on the front straight earlier, where he got turned halfway down the front straight and had to watch cars blast by him at 160 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're right. As the number 26 now has a potential podium in his sight.
Oh, and we're going to have a pass for position in the LMP2's 4P in number 3 Kinetic Racing MTEC. Just lost that position to Steve Driscoll, who is on a mission. Remember, only a few laps ago he did outlap himself from the leader, and he is now only 48 seconds back on them. And there you can see the pass 4P in number 3. He's only now 28 seconds back on your 2nd place Texenza Fitzy Motorsport car.
Let's remind our viewers, too, that Driscoll qualified that number 51 on the pole, which is why he's making such short work of those around him. So now up onto the podium spots, 47 seconds down from our leader. Can he do the unthinkable, unlap himself, and manage to give his team a win here today? 48 minutes to do so, as that green and white Evolve Sim Sports car keeps hustling around.
Now, it would be interesting to see a lap comparison between Driscoll and at least Hart Stadler. But what I can see, he's about 1 to 2 seconds faster.
Rasmus, the 26. We need to go to the 26 right now. A huge wreck just after he took third. He went absolutely tumbling. Oh my goodness.
What in the world happened there? Oh my goodness.
Now why was he slowing so much? That was Lyndon Swaby who got into him in the 167, but that was just utterly bizarre. I don't think Swaby would have anticipated. Yeah, why would he ever imagine that car would slow up that much right there?
Yeah, he slowed down all the way to 161 kilometers an hour right at impact. So, Ian Erasmus, I don't really know what he was thinking. Maybe he was extremely scared of the marbles outside of turn 1. But as I said, there was no reason whatsoever to slow down that much.
Well, assuming that car's damaged, the 26, and won't be back out there for a few laps, we're going to have to wait 6 laps until we get a new podium driver in GT4, and that will be the number 205 Mr. Apex F1 podcast team Porsche, his teammate, who is currently being shown on timing and scoring in 5th, but P3 and P4 are in the pits. Now, if P3 and P4 do not get back out there and the 205 does indeed get up into that podium position, 3rd place, he will be sitting in 3rd position, 11 laps behind the class leader.
That was a lot of ifs.
Well, it's a race on their crutches to see if they can get back out and get to the 3rd position. This is just wild here in the GT4 class. Because, I mean, Erasmus and Gregoire could still get back out there before Harper can manage to unlap himself enough. So, big unknown in the final third of this race. Sam, you were saying about we might not get another caution?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some big incidents in the last few laps. By the way, this is position number 1 and potential position... No, am I getting that mixed up with someone else? Sorry, that's the wrong car.
It's getting dark. Your vision is just not as good as it was.
So, since we have looked at Steve Driscoll the last time, he has already closed in 8 seconds to P number 2 in the LMP2's Hart Stadler. He's trying to drive the best that he can as the 205 is around.
Go on, you gotta get going. You gotta get that 3rd place.
It's a drive to the podium for this car, and it might actually be a drive to the win for the Evolve SimSport Stamina car, because while they've also closed in those 8 seconds to P number 2, they have closed in 4 seconds to the RS car, the 59. So really, I wouldn't count out that Evolve SimSport Stamina car at all from potentially winning this race in the next 44 minutes.
Well, his last lap was his quickest at a 16.8. Compare that to the 17.7 of Dance. Driscoll actually just coming across the line again. Ooh, that one was a little slow. I think he had some traffic in 18.4 for Steve. And we know that Dance has got to have a little bit of damage, because remember, he had that contact into Honda some minutes ago. Statler, in the meantime, is the next one up for Driscoll. So before he even thinks about Dance, he does have to try and consider getting by the other Fitzeye car. I would love to see our incident count after this race, and if anybody somehow managed to get a 0 out there. If not, who managed the fewest of the entire field that finished.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's 3 cars at the very bottom of time and scoring who have 0 incident points, but they were DNSs.
I do believe Total Downforce started this race, did they not?
No.
Oh, they did. Yeah, you're correct. They did not, so. All right, then. Final 45 minutes of this thing. Andrew Mickey still leading our GT4 drivers. And is it now, yeah, is it 3 laps I'm seeing over Dominic Warwick?
Yep, that's correct.
My goodness. Just stunning what he's been able to do.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. It is 3 laps and then some, because he is only about, what is that, 20 seconds back on track from Warwick to put him down 4 laps. So wouldn't be surprised if by the very end we see Andrew Mickey having won that race by like 5 or so laps.
Certainly looks to be in the cards. Keeping an eye still on Harper in the Missed Apex F1 podcast, Team Porsche. The 205 is now only 1 lap behind Gregoire. Erasmus, another lap after that. Currently, it's been about 8.5 minutes for Mad Sim Racing's yellow 282 that's been sitting in pit lane, taking those repairs. I know it was a hard hit. I didn't think it was that hard of a hit.
He's still missing the hood on that car, so I don't know if I don't know the order of when the iRacing mechanics put the pieces back together.
It's a little more complicated than Humpty Dumpty, unfortunately. As we got a bit of a battle for 8th in our GTEs. Andrew Warren in the 124 and Brian Boomsma in the 242. They've got a lot of traffic amidst them as well, complicating things all the more. And they got an LMP2 off in front of them on top of it.
Whoa!
Now, that was Artman, who had to collect himself. Spencer Todd in the 6th place car is slow and
That's taking place.
oh no, Statler's off. And John Nichols in the GT4s, who was running last of everybody, just has more misery added to today.
Yes, that's the grid. That's the Grid Life car there, that GT4 car, but it's not the one leading the race, as you mentioned. It's the one down in 10th.
Statler's back running, but now he's got Driscoll. So Statler's going to get some heckling here in a second, judging by the pace that the Evolve 51 is able to run.
Yeah, it's only about 4 seconds now between those 2 cars, so this obviously has helped out Driscoll majorly.
Cuts down at least one of the positions. It doesn't help him as much with Dance. Still got to do about 44 seconds up to the overall leader, and that was, I want to say, about 45 quite a few minutes ago. So at that rate, I don't think he's got enough unless he gets another caution or some help. We're down to 5 cars on the lead lap yet again, I think. Nope, we still got 6. Pataska and the VRS Satellite number 67. Just a few hundred feet up in front of Dance. So as we watch Dance work his way past
Oh,
Pfeiffer.
and I have to cut in there, sorry. Richie Hearn once again had troubles, this time at MG, and he got collected by John D. Nichols.
And that was, and John was the one that was just involved in that wreck with the other LMP2, with Statler. Fortunately, it looks like we won't be able to have a replay of it. But poor Richie's now sitting in 5th. Hopefully he didn't get too much more damage off of that. Dallas Pataska is actually coming up behind him. If we go to the 67, this is only 1.1 seconds. This is for that 5th place. Up on board. More connection issues, unfortunately, for the number 70. Face has got to be hurting. Won't really know what he's got because this is his first flying lap since the incident. Catching quickly. It's down to half a second now. I think Pataska's definitely got a pace advantage. They're going to come onto the front stretch, which has been the Achilles heel of that number 70 Elite West car. And already, before they even get at the top end, look down to the inside and then switching to the outside as they come towards turn 1. Pataska makes it look like Hearn is standing still.
Well, in sense of a LMP2, he pretty much was. He was about 13, 14 kilometers an hour off pace right there, so he lost another 3-4 kilometers an hour on that top speed as there's a mistake from Dallas Pataska. Here comes Richie Hearn to the outside now of Stoner Corner. This is going to be the inside for Honda. He is not able to brake later, but that is also, by the way, the sister car of our GT4 leader. They're standing on the outside. Dallas Pataska now has the inside for Siberia, so he's going to able to retain that 5th position.
Dance has got to be watching this and just begging them to sort it out quicker rather than later, because he doesn't want to try and lap them as they're fighting for position. Of course, he could give away a little bit of time. He's still got 41 seconds over Statler.
Oh, and news for our GT4 runners. The 282 has driven out of pit lane. Robert Gregor now in that car, but they have been overtaken by the CMS Racing.com team number 1 car. The 178 is now in 5th place. So there has been some movement.
Yeah, but more importantly, the number 205 Missed Apex F1 podcast team Porsche, being driven by Sam Harper, has made it up to 3rd place. Only 10 laps behind the race leader. Can he run the... No, he can't.
That race leader is Andrew Mickey in the Grid Life iRacers Bombshell team. He took over from Murphy Nichols back around lap 43. Hasn't looked back since. It's been clean as you like. And from what it looks like, he probably is taking this one all the way to the checkered flag on fuel.
Now, here's the thing though with Andrew Mickey. If we can get it on board with him here, that 286, you're gonna see something very particular. And that is a black and red car right in front of him. That is your 2nd place driver about to go 4 laps down.
Yep, that's Warwick. And the number 42, just kind of running his own race at this point, knows that it's out of his hands beyond here, and he's got to try and keep it clean and run it to the end. Meantime, I can inform you that Richie Hearn has dropped way off of Pataska and has now fallen off the lead lap. Cameron Dance still looking to try and catch up and lap Pataska, but not doing quite as well as I would have thought. Let's head over to 3rd in that class, though. LMP2 podium up for grabs, and we've seen that a big wreck for Statler has probably hampered his speed. Driscoll might not know that, but he's still right up behind him by less than half a second, and now he gets some help from the lap traffic, slowing both of them up. They almost go 3 wide down the front stretch. He'll look around the outside. Harold gonna be able to use the GT cars as a pick, so Driscoll's going to wait for another corner.
Meanwhile, a small side note here, 42 has officially gone 4 laps down on your GT4 lead.
There's another shot. Really good run up to Honda corner for Driscoll. Defensive move from Statler. He's not going to give it up easy. He's making him work for it. So out of Honda corner, regrouping, Steve Driscoll sees more traffic up ahead. Asowski and Valverde up next for them. I have to give credit. I thought Driscoll would be just absolutely pouncing on this, but he's playing a patient game. He knows he doesn't need this right away, as he's been gaining on him for multiple laps. This might be it. Gets the slipstream down the pit straight. This time he's going to get the right side of the circuit. And into doing, there it goes. P2 for Steve Driscoll, who less than an hour ago was down in 6th spot. A car going completely off is Josh Collins. So the number 102 just catches the barrier slightly.
Actually managed to catch the barrier, as you said. And you can see on the top left here of the tower, 32 minutes, 27 seconds. That means these LMP2 cars, as soon as they pit from here on out, they are good to go till the end.
That's Christopher Reagan, the LMP2 that's slow there. He was just banning fenders for 14th place, and he's came off worst in that battle. Obviously had a spin and got back going again, but is now thrown into this pack of cars we've been watching.
Yeah, that CT racing car has had plenty of excitement today. That's the one shared with Thomas Lovelady.
Oh no!
And that's Driscoll off.
He got hit.
Driscoll. Oh.
As soon as I saw Driscoll go 3 wide with an LMP2 on the inside, I kind of thought this is not gonna end well. Marvin has no idea that the Driscoll's also lapping that GT4, but on the other side, and that's exactly what happened. Driscoll expected the spotter to go clear left, and only to have himself.
And we got a caution.
This is good for him. He's
yes.
in pit lane.
This is perfect for Steve Driscoll, but he's actually... did he get in pit lane before the caution came out, though?
Oh,
that had to have been very close.
Well, if he's exiting the pits, if he served his...
He drove through pit lane.
Probably because of the timing of a yellow, but he wanted to be safe. But if he had passed the pit entry cone, he's taken away.
He still get a penalty, I think, though. Yeah. I believe we saw that last time, too, because the cones were after the pit wall at Imola, so you couldn't leave once you had committed. My goodness. If it could have come just a few moments later, he would have been safely in and been able to take repairs under caution. Maybe get out on the lead lap, or at least only 1 lap down. So I'm not sure what this is going to do for him now, though. This will, however, promote Richie Hearn.
Oh my goodness, we've had a huge pileup at MG just a few moments ago. Andy Banfield, the 112 in that, as well as Torsten Oliver Zimmermann of the 75, and also the 42 was involved in all of that. Let's see if we can get the replay of that. There we go.
Zimmerman was kind of on his own. He just spun out, and everybody else kind of joined him in sympathy. Oh, yeah, no, they were caught out, and they checked up, trying not to run into that car. Unsure if they were going to rejoin. Warwick got rear-ended, so did Asowski. And I didn't see who the other one that made the contact was, third in that line.
Third and fourth and GT4 are on the same lap, so that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. The 205 versus a 178 CMSRacing.com team. Might be looking at a podium.
So we're seeing some chatter from Driscoll's team. Looks like his crew chief's trying to talk to the stewards. Unfortunately for him, though, I don't think they'll have the black flag cleared because they're trying to plead their case that they were right at the cone when it flew.
Actually, that is for a different team. That is the 102 of Forge Endurance. They had the same problem. And yeah, as you said, I don't think they are gonna grant that wish of removing that black flag.
The league is notorious for not clearing in race black flags that are given by iRacing itself. So yeah, I fear that they unfortunately are up a certain creek and don't have a way to paddle. So as we see, looks like this is interesting that well, our leader is in. I was like, why do we not have our LMP2 at the front? Cameron Dance has pitted, and in fact, this is very similar to the last stop. The last caution is many of our LMP2s are taking the chance to come down the lane and get some work done.
Daniel Johnson in the 69 stays out. I think he'll be your new leader.
No, because he was a lap down. He's trying to get his lap back.
Yeah, Johnson was a lap down. Harald Stadler is still gonna continue in, or now, sorry, Harald Stadler has taken over the lead. Cameron Dance did take tires, if I saw that correctly. So those two cars have switched position, but pretty much expected that Cameron Dance, just on raw pace, will take back that P1 position.
I see 25 cars in position for a wave around.
Well, they'll be getting that in a moment. In the meantime, now that we've got our LMP2 leaders coming out of the pits and back onto track, we're going to take a quick break here. It's the final half hour of the Majors Team Endurance Challenge Round 2. Don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island. We are getting ready for our second restart of the day, and your new leader is Harold Stadler, about 3 seconds ahead of Cameron Dance. Our leaders have switched around despite the Texans fit side number 68 getting some damage from a serious incident earlier on in the race. Can he hold on to this top spot as our pace car comes in, and they're still unlapping themselves? That's John McClintock that just went by. So not sure why he did that, because now he's just going to get lapped right back because the green flag is out. That is not for position directly behind Stadler. That's Cordell Cologne, who is a lap down. Cameron Dance is the next one behind, has some ground to make up here on the restart, and only has 23 minutes to try and get the spot back. Leaders in the GTEs are about separated by 3.5 seconds themselves. Kurt Crum for the Calvert team has just hopped in there. Lee Vandenberg has hopped into the Mach 1 eSports car. Andrew Mickey still leading by 4 laps, so his lead does not change from this caution.
Yeah, and the thing we still have to cover, I don't think you mentioned it. If you did, then I'm sorry. The Evolve SimSport Diamond car that we did look at for fighting that second place. Steve Driscoll, he did come into pit lane as Lynn Swavey had us been in Honda. Steve Driscoll, he did enter closed pits in that caution, so he is now a full lap down on your leader, 7th position. As there's a car going off track. Marvin Artman, 5th place in the LMP2, hits the wall hard, and that's another car gone. That's Brett Trosine.
Oh my goodness, so Trosine was not for position, but Artman was, so Driscoll up to 6. He's got about 3.5 seconds up to the battle for 4th, which is on right now between Thompson in the 70 and Henrique in the 16. Henrique is going to be able to get by into P4. Look at that. So the Suderita Monza, which weren't they as far down? I want to say is 14th or something at one point, is now well back up the order. A little bit far away from a potential podium, but certainly with a solid top 5 in the cards. Oddly, Dance is not gaining on Stadler right now. Of course, they are close on iRating between the pair of them. So it could be that Harold just that little bit quicker. Meanwhile, Henrique is pushing hard to separate himself from Thompson. The car in front of him is Jeffrey. Jeffrey's not for position, so he doesn't need to sweat this one. Behind him, Christian Challoner and the Team iRacing car wants to try and get a few more spots, and he's got about 7 seconds to do so. They're both going to go by the lapped car. Great call from Jeffrey to see it coming and just get out of their way. So now Henrique needs to choose. Does he want to hold back Challoner, a former pro, now iRacing staff member? Nope, he's not going to hold him back at all. So that allows Christian Challoner to go on his merry way to try and gain on Cologne by about 2 seconds to see if he can move to 11th. Meanwhile, Driscoll has already caught Michael Thompson. The 70 car does not seem healthy. It's falling backwards once more. And for the second time in this race, it appears he's going to lose his spot to the number 51.
And the funny thing for Driscoll is, yes, he is right now 6th place. Yes, he is a lap down, but he's actually not too far away from a podium position. As the Kinetic Racing MTEC team, they are a minute 9 behind Williams. That means Driscoll is only about 30 seconds or so back on that 3rd place driver. Plus, He's about 2.5 seconds faster a lap than the 69 of Daniel Johnson. So 18 minutes remaining, he might still be able to get there.
And Dance has cut it down to 1.6 seconds. Something must have held up Harold. He's now suddenly under the gun. And if Dance gets anywhere closer, he's going to smell a whiff of the win. I don't think he's going to take it lying down, even though it's his teammate in another Fitzeye car. Only thing they don't want to do is throw away the victory for their team. They've got 1 minute and 7 seconds over Johnson. Front stretch, 1.5 seconds as they pick up speed. Dance having shared this car with Jack Stiles earlier on in the race. Statler with Ben Johnson. Only imagine the nerves that each of their teammates are feeling now. So close to the win, but they have no control of it from here. It is down to their cohorts to decide who claims victory here at Phillip Island in the dark of the night.
Oh, and we just had a massive wreck at the Honda chicane. Jason Enrique, the number 16 LMP2, massive wreck for him. He T-boned a lap car that was caught at Cologne. That was also your third place driver, Jason Enrique. Completely misjudged the line that the GTE ahead of him is gonna take. Hopefully we have that on the replay. Yes, we have that 16. Just have a look at that.
And he picked the wrong side. Can't brake on the grass. Poor Cordell was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the Grizzly Motorsports 48 took a huge blow and is already towed to pit lane. Sad to see that happen, but Driscoll probably isn't, because that's going to gift him a few spots. Puts him into 4th with about 24 seconds up to Johnson. Here we ride on board with him now. Just love the visuals that iRacing has added ever since they put the time of day changing into the sim. It just looks incredible at sunrise and sunset. Right now, Driscoll, half a minute to make up, but very few laps to actually catch up to the back of Daniel Johnson for a potential podium. Ahead of them all, Dance and Statler separated still by about 1.3 seconds. That's been hovering around there, but hasn't gotten close enough for Dance to be able to attack. Oh, and it just might eat my words, because I think Statler got held up by some traffic. It's down to 0.4 of a second now. Let's head over to Cameron Dance. There you can see the gap between them, 0.2 of a second. Dance is coming. How hard does Harold fight this? Are there any team orders here? Or is this every man for himself? Down into Honda corner. Braking hard. Dance gets right underneath the rear wing. Can't quite make it stick. Car going completely off track is Jason Lottridge. And the 288 just trying to stay out of the way of this fight.
Now, obviously, rule number 1 of racing, don't hit your teammate. Cameron Dance has to be careful while they're fighting for position. I'm pretty sure the Fitzy guys have no team orders in place here. It's every man for himself. Stadler versus Dance should be a very exciting battle for the last 15 minutes, as once again there's a lap car holding them up. The 205 of Sam Harper right now 3rd place in the GT4 class. And this is gonna give the good opportunity for Cameron Dance here down the front stretch into turn 1. Let's have a look here. The draft comes into play. Half a car length, third of a car length. He is gonna lift on the throttle. Not gonna take it this time around. So Stadler allowed to lead at least one more lap here in the closing stages of this race.
So far, so good. The defense of the 68 has fended off Cameron Dance, yet another of our GT cars down to the inside. Nicely done by Gregoire to stay out of their way. They're coming up to Daniel Johnson, and this is the third place car. They are lapping third place here.
Yeah, and it's going to be really intriguing to see what Johnson is going to do here with these two cars approaching. Obviously, he doesn't want to lose too much time because he still has Driscoll closing in on him. The last lap, 3 seconds was the difference in favor of Cole. So Johnson, he has to pick a good spot here because he will have to let by both fitting cars. So maybe Johnson just a little bit of a lift here going into turn 1 and let both cars by. Obviously a little bit of a difficult situation with also a GT4 car now to his left side, and actually these two won't even be able to catch him by that time.
Time's running out. We've got, what, about 10 laps to go here? So Dance can't just sit around and wait for this to fall into his lap. Johnson now ahead of him. He's going to hold off to the side. He sees the blue flags, and there they go. So
good job by Johnson, but this has lost him probably about a second to a second and a half just there.
It's down to 13.2 between himself and Driscoll. Yep, more of the traffic almost causing a slalom amongst them, going by Hutchison and Johnson. And this might hold up Statler right here. 2 cars side by side, Boomsma and McClintock. Thankfully, they're going to get single file in time. Both of them down and through. Such a complicated mess that our LMP2 drivers are having to deal with. Horrible for Dance. What was 0.3 of a second is back up to 0.6.
I'm also keeping an eye here on the chase down for third place between the 69 and the 51, so you're not gonna miss anything there as well. Obviously, your pole sitter, the Evolve SimSport Diamond, most definitely looking at least getting a podium finish off that, and that's gone. Steve Driscoll spins.
Whoa. Well, he saves it and he keeps it off the wall. He's trying to find his way back to the track. I mean, a great job not panicking in that situation, but even still, he's got to be kicking himself knowing that he was gaining hand over fist. Back to our leaders. He's cut down the gap to 0.3 once again. Cameron Dance continues to be able to get him down to within attacking range, but just not being able to actually attack. As they come up to Swan, final corner of the lap onto the front stretch. This is the closest Cam's been on the front stretch. This is going to be a very good opportunity. Moving immediately over to the left side, Statler picks his line. Cameron's down to the inside. They come through Doohan, and after multiple laps of trying, Cameron Dance is your new leader. Car off to the side was Gregoire in the GT4s.
Alright, so with the spin that Driscoll did put in, the gap has opened up to 15 seconds between third and himself. So honestly, with the rate he has been catching Johnson, this is still not out of the ballpark here for Johnson.
He's got to keep it clean. He knows that things can get thrown away here quite easily. Boy, all of our podium did not start on the podium. The Athena car in second, started from 7th. The Aries car started from 5th and now is in the lead. And then the Kinetic Racing number 69, Daniel Johnson, started from 8th and is in 3rd. Poor pole sitter Steve Driscoll has fallen from that top spot down to 4th.
Yeah, and at one point we actually did have the Elite West Racing in a podium spot position, and that would have been extremely incredible for them because they actually did start dead last in class. Though we have to mention they are still right now in 6th place, having gained 12 positions in class. Still, they have to be very proud inside that car 70 cockpit.
Regarding that Gregoire incident you saw a moment ago, Joe, for Mad Sim Racing Yellow, that was actually a pretty nasty incident, so they've had to go back in the pits. That is costing them 5th place in class for the first time in a while. Sector 8 has moved up into the top 5 in class. The number 58 machine currently being driven by Stephen Paulison, now 5th place.
I just have to keep an eye out for that 3rd place battle, because while I have updated you just 2 laps ago, Driscoll has already closed in another 5 seconds. The gap between Johnson and Driscoll only 10 seconds at this point and dropping rapidly. So Driscoll on a mission, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna catch Johnson at this rate before the timer runs out.
We're going to watch from Driscoll's perspective. How hard is he pushing as he comes around towards the final turn? The inky blackness of the night, and man, that's got to be scary. Anytime you see those puffs of dust or smoke in front of you, no idea what's in front of you, and these LMP2 cars will arrive on the scene very quickly, so not much time to react.
Especially compared to GT4 cars. Just look at that speed difference around the outside for the LMP2 on the GT4. And now a little bit of a tricky situation. GT4 and GTE right ahead of him. Gonna have to move around the outside of both of them. Quick reactions for Driscoll required there, as well as the GTE changed the line ahead of him, but managed to do that very nicely. 18.4 the last lap for him. 2.1 seconds faster than Johnson did put up, so that gap ever so shrinking.
Never give up, never surrender. Driscoll seems to be living by that motto for sure. And the traffic does seem to be behaving for him. That was Dolson and the number 72, who's way off the racing line, saw him coming and just leaped out of the way. So this time by Daniel Johnson in the number 69, a 120.5. No, actually, that was the last lap. A 119.5 for Daniel Johnson. Driscoll comes down behind him. A 116.9. Woo!
Yeah, that was only 3/10 of the fastest lap of this race thus far, which was a 16.616 if I remember correctly. And there you have the lap comparison. Look at that. That 6 lap, that +6, that is the lap he spun at. Next lap, -4, -2, -2.5. That is just how much faster this guy is.
I was going to say, I mean, when you usually pull up that graphic, we're talking in terms of tenths comparing two drivers. Not so for this one. And it's 2.5 seconds at this point. Hand over fist. It's bleeding away. Daniel Johnson, is he nervous? Does he have the guts? Does he have the nerves to try and hold off Steve Driscoll and get himself a podium for the Kinetic Racing number 69?
I know this sounds a little bit bad right now, but he has the benefit of having Joao Valverde, his teammate, right behind him, the 66. Now, I don't want to throw anything at these guys trying to be misbehaving a little bit on the blue flag situations, but it is just that one more car that is helping you a little bit, facilitating blue flag situations a little bit harder for the car that is catching you.
And they have specified in the rules that you are not allowed to try and intentionally hinder a car from another class or a car lapping you. So The stewards will probably keep an eye on that, and Kinetic is an upright team. I'm sure they'll make sure that everything's on the up and up. In the meantime, coming to the back of that lapped car, Driscoll now has only one machine between himself and his target. Let's see if Valverde is going to pull out of the way. He's not obligated to pull out of the way if he's running the same pace as him. So far, he's just biding his time. Oh, but he almost shuts the door on him. Sees him there, so he's going to give space now that he's side by side. Is he finally going to let him through? He's making life very difficult. Joao back up in front of him. Driscoll's got to be steaming.
So a little bit dirty there from the 66 because he did shut the door quite hard on Driscoll, who is lapping him, and he is still not giving way. This is most definitely trying to be a little bit bendy with the rules, let's put it like that.
Yeah, I flashed his lights at him. Didn't seem too happy, but look at this, a great run. Driscoll might immediately have his third place if he can just get by. Daniel Johnson outbreaks him. Oh, and the teammate behind him, Valverde's off track, but it's not going to affect the pass as Driscoll is up to third.
He did it with 2.5 minutes remaining. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, and right about that many laps to go. I was watching the leader last time by, was sitting at about 2 laps to go when Cameron Dance comes through the final complex of corners, which, by the way, has pretty much wrapped up the GT4 win for Mikey.
Yeah, Mickey's not going to be overtaken by anybody since he is multiple laps ahead. There we go across the line. Penultimate lap for Cameron Dance. To his credit, Harold Statler is not letting him get too far away. It's about 2 seconds splitting them.
Yeah, and the good thing is for our guys here in the GT4, we might still have a little bit of a battle on our hands for third place in class because it's only half a lap between those two.
And you see Sam Harper and Jordan Johnson. Something could still happen. Question is, where are the leaders in reference to them? Because if they split them, that unfortunately will not allow them to race to the finish.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty significant gap between them anyhow, but still impressive in a way to finish 10 laps down and get third place.
Cameron Dance with just 2 more corners before he sees the white flag. It's up to 2.3 seconds to his teammate in the 68 Fitzai car. Just a little bit of traffic in front of him. Of course, he still wants to remain careful. Woof. Just never ends, even down to the final lap in this series. Dance takes the white flag, 1 to go after 3 hours of racing.
Honestly, at this point, I would have loved to see Driscoll also take the fastest lap of the race with the drive that he has put on in that Evolve Sim Sport Diamond Cup, but it's not going to happen because he had to brake very early for turn number 1. So I'm not sure who that's gonna go to, but yeah, I said it was a 16.6 that was driven at 1 point even before the dark.
This isn't over. Yeah, I mean, it was 4 seconds a moment ago. It's down to just 2 seconds now, and Dance does have a couple of lapped cars ahead of him.
He's got to play it cool. He's got half a lap left as they come up to Lukey Heights, and he is going to be held up quite a bit here. Is his teammate behind him?
Oh,
yes.
No!
They come together, and Cameron Dance is going to be able to manage to sneak through here. Maybe just gets to the inside. His teammate could get a bit of a slipstream down the front stretch, but he looks a little too far back. Drama all the way to the very end, but it's going to be a Fitzai 1-2 with Dance taking the 59 home first and Statler in second.
GT2 and GTE and GT4 leaders both still have pretty much a whole lap left to go around here.
And I think Kurt Crumb's going to be the next one through in the 188. He's got 10 seconds over Vandenberg. Mach 1 Esports car and the Calvert Dynamics Bombshell have been at each other's throats for much of this race, but in the end, it seems the 188 had the edge.
Alternatively, the 286 could stop right now and still win the race by a few laps.
Well, it would be pretty much the same story for the 188 as they are a lap ahead of P number 2, the Mach 1 Esports team. They did lead at one point.
It's 10 seconds between them, I think. I'm seeing.
Is it? Okay,
no,
then I'm having...
you know what? The leaders must have finished between them, I think, is what happened. That's what you're seeing. So good call there, Steph. And still the win goes to the 188 team for Calvert Dynamics Bombshell Racing Team. Crum taking them to the line. Just behind them, it is going to be Andrew Mickey taking himself and Murphy Nichols to the win by multiple laps in that 286 as he flashes his lights in celebration.
And it's a little bit funny because I actually called him to be 5 laps ahead of the rest of the field, and in the end, they're 5 laps ahead at the end of the race.
So, as we saw a little bit of a celebration spin from Dance as he gets clipped by somebody, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island, round 2 in the Majors Team Endurance Championship. Wound up going to Texas Fitzhugh Motorsports Aries with Cameron Dance taking that one home. Our international region champion, proving he is very good in these LMP2 cars. The sister team, the number 68 for Fitzhugh, finished in second with a lap down going to Evolve SimSport Diamond. Driscoll taking that one home with a great job, ahead of Kinetic Racing Team MTEC 69 and 4th, and the Scuderia Monza finishing 5th. Elite West Racing finished in 6th after starting 18th in class. Switch It Topaz finishes in 7th, and Speed Asylum Bombshell Racing finished P8. Then you've got Devotion Sim Racing Purple in 9th. Didn't really talk about them a whole lot, but the 53 did bring it home with the top 10. VRS Satellite Racing in 10th behind them. And then poor team iRacing, after starting on the front row and spinning out on the first lap, just couldn't bring it back to the front and had to settle for 11th. ATHIM Racing finished in 12th, with CT Racing finished 13th, and Evolve SimSport Obsidian in 14th. XMB Sim Racing Design finished in 15th, Sam, which takes us to the GTEs.
Yeah, and there was Calvaire Dynamics Bombshell Racing taking the win because they were just ahead of the overall race winner when they crossed the finish line, and the Mach 1 Esports number 163 machine was an extra lap down, so that meant they couldn't challenge for the win and finished in second place, ahead of a Texan Fitzy Motorsports Hardee's team, rounding out the GTE podium. SimTV Bombshell finished in fourth in class ahead of Friction Racing and Evolve Sim Sports Titanium. Now, here on this page of the results, we see a couple of LMP2 cars that had bad races, Kinetic Racing, MTEC, and Grizzly Motorsports. Sector 5, Wild Blue Yonder finished up there, though, ahead of the Evolve Sim Sports number 124 machine. Missed Apex F1 podcast team, Speed Works Racing, Grizzly Motorsports by TFR Lab, VPEX Racing Group and S's Racing. Now you get to the tail end of a GTE field, by far our largest field today. 31st overall was a Black Tree Racing ahead of Forge Endurance 404, the number 102 car. Behind them is Kinetic Racing, MTEC, Howler Racing, and also a couple other drivers down here. Now, Joe, we're getting into the depths where these drivers probably don't want to remember today's race that well.
Really don't. And you can see our winner in the GT4 class, Grid Life iRacers 286, with Mickey on the car when they crossed the checkered flag. Forge Endurance GT4 finishing in second, multiple laps down. Same thing with third place, Miss Apex F1 podcast team Porsche there. Fourth went to CMSRacing.com. Team 1, Sector 8, 5th, and Mad Sim Racing Yellow 6. Missed Apex F1 podcast team, Tax Dodgers finished in 7th, 8th, went to 718 team for the Missed Apex guys. And of course, we had some drivers with some bad luck with CMS Racing Team 2 and Grid Life iRacers 2 Bombshell behind them. Up first, we have our winners in the GTE class. It is Kurt Crum and Tom O'Gorman. Boy, what a fight was that with the Mach 1 team. It seemed like through the middle part of the race, you two could not get away from one another.
Yeah, it was really close. I'll have to let Tom speak to that. He had a stellar drive there, his first two stints.
Yeah, I mean, I came in, first of all, I was just happy to join the Bombshell guys on one of these cars. They asked for a sub, and I haven't gotten to do much endurance racing like this, so this was a lot of fun to join in on. And my goal with the starting two stints was basically to make sure the car was perfect for Kurt to drive to the finish. So I started off with a lot of fuel saving, a lot of rolling around, and just trying to make sure that I kept my nose clean. A lot of close calls still, but somehow I found myself motoring by the leader and kind of made sure that they had the room they wanted if they wanted to take the position. After the first round of pit stops, it looked like they had some struggles, and we ended up with that kind of 10 to 15 second gap ebbing and flowing. But again, it was just like, endurance style, make sure the finishing driver can keep it clean. So Kurt was perfect. I don't know if I could have stayed that cool on the final restart, but he nailed it.
Yeah, it certainly brought things down in the way that you did not want at the very end. I mean, how was it out there trying to deal with those not GT4s, the LMP2s coming by? It seemed like the closing rates were just almost like you couldn't see them coming with how quickly they came upon you.
Yeah, I mean, this track's really tough with the high-speed sweepers, and I'll tell you, the night caught me off guard a little bit. I did not have practice in that much dark, and yeah, with those P2s, those two white dots get wide real quick behind you.
So next round, we're heading to an even shorter lap time and a track that probably will cause just as many problems with that lap traffic with Road Atlanta. How is the Calvert Dynamics Bombshell team feeling about that coming up?
We're pretty excited about that. Road Atlanta's been one of our favorite tracks historically. So yeah, I think the the way the turn spacing there is, I'm expecting traffic to not be quite as bad, but there are still a couple of those real fast turns. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, everyone learned a little bit from this race and looking to keep it clean earlier on. And as you can see, the results speak for themselves.
Well, certainly do. And is there anybody you'd like to thank for today's victory?
Just like thank Eric and the rest of the Bombshell team for getting our group organized and keeping it all together.
Yeah, definitely thanks to the Bombshell guys for letting me join in, and thank you to you guys for putting on the show for us.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us. That was Kurt Crum and Tom O'Gorman driving the Calvert Dynamics Bombshell Racing number 188 Corvette home to victory today. Up next, I've caught up with our winners in the LMP2s. The Texans Fitzai Motorsport Aries number 59 has Cameron Dance and Jack Stiles. Looks like Dance is joining us. I guess Jack has probably gone off to bed here pretty shortly. Cam, my goodness, it looked a little nerve-wracking coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an awkward one with the roadblock of the GT cars in front of me, and then a bit of netcode contact from Harold. I thought it was the wind gone, but no, in the end, it was actually not too bad of damage, so it didn't hurt me too much in a straight line. I thought it was actually going to be a drag race line, and there was going to be like nothing in it between us. But no, it was a reasonably clean race for us for the majority of it. There's a few minor little incidents we had, but otherwise, pretty good race in the end.
Now, you managed to qualify this car in 5th on the grid. Did you feel like the win was possible after you qualified down there?
Yes and no. I mean, looking at what everybody else's pace was compared to what Jack was doing, it was going to be interesting to see what happened. I think we would have had a podium at least, if not at worst a top 5 or something like that. But with the way the race played out in the end, it actually worked for us quite well to start in P5 and then just move our way up the order slowly and surely.
Also looked like the cautions worked out very well for your class. Both times it seemed the LMP2s simply had an easy decision on pit strategy.
Yeah, the last caution actually caught us off guard because I was actually supposed to pit the next time by, so it was a little bit nerve-wracking in that it was going to be interesting as to where I was on track, as to whether the pace car was going to come out and whether I'd have to go around and save fuel twice. But no, it came out at the perfect time, so it helped us a lot. And the first caution actually kind of hurt us a little bit because I was supposed to get in the car 3 laps after the caution had come out. So it kind of screwed our strategy a little bit, but at the same time, it didn't actually hurt us too bad in the end.
Yeah, it all worked out. And even though it was 2/10 at the line, you still called the victory. So anybody you want to thank before you take off?
First of all, shout out to Jack for the awesome driving and keeping the car in one piece the whole race, and the rest of the Texans Fitzai Motorsport boys for all their hard work across the week. I haven't been home, unfortunately, to help out and do mini laps, but we managed to get a good set in the end, which was really, really good. And just a shout out to our partners, Texans Sensors, Renville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast, Majors Garage, Mike for putting on the awesome series, and everybody for the awesome racing today.
That was Cam Dance, our winner in the LMP2s, as Sam has caught up with our definitive winner in the GT4s. We've got Murphy Nichols and our Andrew Mickey.
Yeah, first off, congratulations, Andrew and Murphy. Great race out there today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was a hectic race with the traffic.
Yeah,
Now, go ahead, Murphy.
I was going to say, definitely from start to finish, it was definitely, like Andrew said, a very chaotic race. And especially in the GT4, it's all about traffic management. You just have to kind of hope for the best and not get punted, which surprisingly, there were definitely a few times, specifically in one corner, where I got very lucky and was not hit by a car that went off track. Qualifying went well. I'm surprised that I started pole by 0.006 of a second. That definitely got me off to a good start. The beginning of the race, it was fun to kind of go around with those GT4 guys, but I saw they started to drop off one by one. And at that point, the biggest thing, at least with me starting the race, it was all about, all right, I got to just keep the car on track. Don't get involved in any sort of wrecks and just keep the car clean, keep the car going.
Yeah, let's talk about your first half of a race there, Murphy, and then Andrew, I'll pick you up in a minute with the end of the race, because it was almost two different races. Murphy, like you say, at the start of a race, the lead was changing in the GT4 class pretty much every lap, but it wasn't because of battles, it was because of incidents. Why was it so tricky at the start there? Why was it so chaotic for you guys?
I think it's just because it's cold tires. It's especially cold tires just because we had to start essentially on the back half of the track. I think we started in the S's, and so we're all kind of going there, cold brakes, cold tires. Everybody's going all over the place, and there was definitely a few mistakes. I had one in the beginning, and I was really glad that I did not lose the car there because I think I easily could have, but I was able to keep it under control. But at that point, you just got to realize that it's not a 20-minute sprint, it's a 3-hour enduro. So you don't necessarily want to be in a battle, but if you know that you're faster than the car in front of you, then it gets to a point where you try to, but you don't necessarily push it 100%.
Now, by the time you got in the car, Andrew, things had settled down a little bit, but you still had to be paying attention out there because I've got to imagine the LMP2 traffic and the GTE traffic and just keeping an eye on those guys throughout the entire race was a challenge.
Yeah, those B2s are really fast, especially around like turn 1 where we have to lift so much, and I imagine they don't have to lift nearly at all. It's pretty crazy when you're going that slow.
Now, you guys were able to go fast, of course, and most importantly, keep your car clean. But also, I think you benefited a bit out there due to strategy. Do you guys go in with an attack plan of preparing yourselves for the eventuality of a safety car? How much discussion goes into, hey, what if a safety car comes out now?
That was pretty much on the fly, strategy planning wise. We didn't know we were coming into the pits until we actually turned off the track.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in the beginning, like we ran close to max fuel, and the original goal was to try to pit on pace car. We were just hoping that it would have came out a little bit later than what it actually did, but I felt that we felt that we had enough of a lead to we can let Andrew switch a little bit early and let him finish the rest of the race. And it was just keeping, like I said before, just keeping the car under control and just not having to get involved in a wreck and not having to spend more time in the pit due to repairs.
So we're 2 races into the season. Obviously, this is a great result for you guys, championship-wise. What are your goals and ambitions heading into Road Atlanta?
Well, going into this race, I was just not expecting it to go the same way as Imola went, but that obviously happened. So for Road Atlanta, I'm looking to capitalize on this. Hopefully, we can keep this winning stretch going.
Absolutely. Hope to stick around. I know I wasn't here last week, but I was able to hop in this week, and hopefully we can do this again and see what happens.
All right. Well, 2 wins in a row to kick off a 5-race season. That's definitely a solid opening, and we wish the best of luck in you and keeping up that momentum. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
I want to thank Murphy for handing over the car in the position he did for me, and the rest of my team for putting in the work with the setup. And yeah.
And then I'll thank Andrew for being a great teammate, helping me out, keeping my head screwed on tight, not messing up anything. Big thanks to my parents for watching the race. Big thanks to Grid Life and just all the other guys out there supporting me.
All right. Well, it's great to hear you two supporting each other. And like we say, we'll see you next time at Road Atlanta. So that was Murphy Nichols and Andrew Mickey, the class winners in GT4, complement each other, working well as a team, and probably trying to teach a lesson to me and Joe there.
For sure. And we've got our second place finishers with the GTEs, the Mach 1 Esports Porsche, with Jesse Butler, Henry Thomas Kircher, and Lee Vandenberg. Now, it seems you three unfortunately saw things slip away after the first pit stop. Would you feel like that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think so a little bit. Just unfortunate with Henry getting caught up. I think it was his first or second lap out, but no, it wasn't too bad. Henry done a good stint in that second one, saved a fair bit of fuel for us.
From what we heard from some of the other GT drivers, it sounded like they were okay with most of what happened in traffic, although still hard to keep up with the pace of the LMP2s coming up behind you. What are your feelings on it? Do you think everybody was decently behaved today?
I thought the GT4 guys did a brilliant job, to be honest. It's got to be tough, with cars and that sort of closing speed. And the LMP guys I thought were really good as well.
So I'm curious, what was your decision-making process, since you have three people on the team, on who played which stint, especially since there was an easy figuring of at least three stints throughout this race?
Well, we actually decided that probably 5 minutes before quali. Usually in the first race at Imola, Lee done quali and he done the first stint, and this week we're seeing that I had a little bit more pace in quali trim, so we decided that I'd start the race and do quali. Didn't work too bad, done a fairly decent time in quali to snag pole, and yeah, then it was pretty good. Henry was pretty comfortable in the middle stint. He saved, like I said earlier, saved us a lot of fuel, just managed the car fairly well, especially with the traffic. Like Lee said before, everyone done pretty well in traffic considering how much the closing distances are and whatnot. And then Lee was pretty quick as well in that last stint and try to bring it home on fire, really.
Well, bring it home you did, and though it wasn't a win, it was still a podium and valuable points here today. Is there anybody the three of you would like to thank for managing to get to spray the champagne?
I'd just like to thank these two guys, Henry and Lee. All three of us put in a fair bit of work on setups and whatnot. I'd like to thank Mach 1 Esports just for the support that we get throughout the weeks that lead up to these races, and through the races that we get a fair bit of support. I'll let Henry say a few words as well.
Yeah, just a huge shout out to Jesse and Lee for all their hard work with the setups and things like that, and I've obviously got a little bit of work to do to get onto their pace, but we'll chip away at that and drag it back through. But all the support of the Mach 1 guys, it's really cool and really cool team to be a part of, and really enjoying it. So something pretty special.
Well, again, awesome job out there today, guys. It certainly did not look easy. And that was our second place finishers in the Mach 1 Esports team, taking the 163 to a podium. But we're going to close out, of course, with a few thank yous. A big thanks goes to the majors for bringing us on for coverage of this fantastic new series that they've just started recently. And a thank you, of course, goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast, listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sam, Steph, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. You can also check out our merchandise store, which is linked in the description below. That is simply gsrc.storenv.com. But while you're down there, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure and hit that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race going to be at Road Atlanta. That'll be Saturday, January 30th, a month from now at 4 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And that includes our next one up today, which is the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series. That'll be at South Boston at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.